On the day the college entrance exam results came out, I was sentenced to 10 years, charged stealing national college entrance exam questions and leaking them to students. On the eve of the college entrance exam, I gave the legendary prediction papers I had spent 10 years of teaching and research perfecting to the entire class for free. The class monitor and the school beauty slacked off due to their relationship, leading to their failure in the college entrance exam. They immediately turned around and reported me to the Education Bureau for leaking exam questions. My teaching qualification was revoked, and I was sentenced to 10 years in prison. While in detention, I had my lawyer search for other students who got into top universities by relying on the real exam questions to testify, but they all turned a cold shoulder, fearing the incident would affect their futures. When I opened my eyes again, on the computer screen was the question bank model I had spent 10 years building with all my effort. I raised my hand, deleted it, and formatted the storage drive. The moment the computer screen went completely dark, empty-handed, I stood up, pushed open the door of Class 1, Grade 12, and said to the students below, "Self-study tonight." After speaking, I pulled out a chair and sat down at the lectern. The students below were each focused on their own tasks. Some were buried in their heads, working on practice problems. Some were wearing headphones, whether listening to English or music was unclear. In the third row from the middle, class monitor Jace and school beauty Selena. Their heads were close together, their hands intertwined under the desk, their lips were almost touching. They whispered to each other, dreaming of a trip to Tibet after graduation, a seaside homestay, and a future without exam papers. I pretended not to see, until a voice came from below the podium, "Teacher Lynn." It was study committee member Silas. His eyes held an urgency he couldn't hide. I looked up at him. "What's wrong, Teacher Lynn? When will you be handing out this year's secret prediction papers?" As soon as these words were spoken, the classroom instantly fell silent. Those doing practice problems stopped writing. Those listening to music took off their headphones. Even Jace and Selena, who had been whispering to each other, looked up toward the podium. The restless energy in the air was suddenly ignited. "That's right, Teacher Lynn. Weren't they always handed out during the last evening self-study session in previous years? I heard from last year's seniors that your secret exam papers directly predicted the last two major final questions. Even the phrasing of the questions was exactly the same." Exactly. Last year, senior Zhang from class 3, who was just barely above the first-year cutoff in the mock exams, managed to turn things around and get into a 985 university thanks to the 30 points from your secret papers. Who doesn't know about the Oracle's legendary exam papers? With these papers, you can improve your math score by at least 20 points. The discussions rose and fell in waves. Their eyes were filled with a thirst for higher scores. Silas leaned in half a step closer, lowering his voice even further, with a pleading tone, "Teacher Lynn, I know you have that question bank model. Last year's seniors said you spent 10 years deconstructing and modeling the final questions from the college entrance exams over the past 30 years, as well as competition questions from various provinces, accurately predicting the key exam points every year. Our class's average math score in this mock exam is 28 points higher than the second-place class in the grade, all thanks to your usual breakdown of knowledge points, but we still can't get a firm grasp on the direction of these final few major questions. Just give us the secret papers. We want to get into our dream schools and make you proud." On this very day in my past life, it was also during this evening self-study session, I had stayed up for 3 nights, revised it 7 times, and printed 42 copies of the predicted exam secret papers. I handed one to each person over 2 class periods. I broke down the problem-solving approach for every question and each scoring point, making everything crystal clear. I told them these questions were highly likely to appear on the exam even if they didn't. The problem-solving logic was universally applicable. Those who listened attentively all got into their desired universities. Jace and Selena were passing notes to each other the whole time and didn't listen to a single word. They didn't even flip through the exam paper once. When the college entrance exam results came out, their scores were a complete mess. After learning that other classmates had gotten into their dream schools by correctly answering the question types I had predicted, they became insanely jealous and immediately reported me to the Education Bureau, accusing me of stealing national secrets related to the college entrance exam and leaking the questions in advance. The post was published online and exploded into a trending search overnight. Hashtag top school teacher steals college entrance exam questions just for class admission rates. Hashtag where is educational fairness? Hashtag. The topic trended for 3 days and 3 nights. I was taken away for questioning. I explained to the investigators over and over that it was a question bank model I had spent 10 years building, derived from patterns in past exam papers, not a leak. I presented my lesson plans, my modeling data, my 10 years of teaching and research records. I said, my students could testify that I had taught these question types for 3 whole years, and the last evening self-study session was just a summary. The investigators actually contacted them. 42 students I taught for 3 years. I poured my heart and soul into guiding them for 3 years, yet not a single person stood up to speak a fair word for me. Silas The class monitor I valued most. I shared all my teaching and research materials with him, and every evening self-study session, I stayed with him to analyze problem-solving approaches, he said. I don't know where he got the final exam question from either. He never mentioned anything about modeling to us. He just handed out the paper and said it would definitely be on the test. Jace, who served as class monitor for 3 years. I helped him secure a provincial level 3 good student nomination and applied for financial aid for him as a needy student, he said. He's always been cozy with the school administration, running to the principal's office every other day. Maybe he got the college entrance exam questions from the leaders. Selena, I was worried that her early romance would affect her grades, so I talked to her countless times, helped her with her math foundation, and raised her scores from just passing to 120, she said. He only has 10 years of teaching experience. How can you be better than those veteran teachers with 20 or 30 years? If he hadn't used abnormal methods, how could he predict the final exam questions every year? Their testimonies became the final straw that broke me. The investigators ultimately concluded that I had obtained national college entrance exam secrets through improper means and leaked the questions. My teaching qualification certificate was revoked. I am banned from working in the education industry for life. I was sentenced to 10 years in prison. My thoughts returned to the present, in the classroom. Everyone was looking at me, waiting for me to produce that legendary set of secret exam prediction papers. I looked into Silas's eager eyes. I looked at the 42 familiar faces below. The words they used to kick me when I was down in my past life echoed in my ears. One by one I spoke, my voice flat, without a single ripple of emotion. There are no secret prediction papers. Silas's face instantly turned pale. Teacher Lynn, what did you say? I said. There are no secret exam papers, I repeated. And I added, all the question types for the final problems, their solving logic, and scoring techniques, I've been teaching them in every class for the past 3 years. They're all in the notes and the mistake correction books. For the last class, you'd be better off reviewing the previous material yourselves than anything else. But Teacher Lynn, those are different. Your secret papers directly target the exam points. Previous seniors all relied on them to boost their scores. Please just show them to us, even if you only explain one problem. No, I still said just those 2 words. Teacher Lynn, how can you be like this? His voice suddenly rose sharply, clear for everyone in the classroom to hear. The college entrance exam is tomorrow. This is our last chance. You clearly have the ability to help us, so why won't you? Yeah, someone from the back row immediately chimed in. Teacher Lynn, you've always given it to us in previous years. Why not this year? We're so close to the finish line. You can't just abandon us now. Exactly, Teacher Lynn, we've been with you for 3 years. You can't just stand by and watch us fail. Can you? How much of your time would it really take? I chose to stay in your class in the first place because of that legendary exam set. It's just one set of papers, right? You could go over it with us. It'd only take a couple of classes. If we do well, you'll look good too. One comment after another, everyone talking over each other. It was all just shameless emotional blackmail. Selena leaned against Jace, brushing her hair back. The tone was light and airy, carrying a hint of sarcasm. Since you have something that can help us improve our scores, why are you keeping it hidden? Are you just going to watch us fail to get into good universities? Besides, don't you rely on our admission rates for your professional evaluation? What good does it do you if we do poorly? Jace immediately chimed in, scoffing. Exactly, who knows what he's really thinking. Silas, don't bother begging. He's probably just afraid we'll do well and steal his thunder. He rubbed his nose, his attitude arrogant, always controlling this and that, like some old fuddy-duddy. We finally made it to the last class, and he's still putting on airs here. No matter what they say, my answer remains the same. There is no prediction test paper. Arthur, are you fucking crazy? We're going to report you to the principal's office. We'll report you for deliberately withholding resources and hindering our college entrance exam preparation. Right, let's report him. What the oracle? I think it's just a scam. They gave it in previous years, but not this year. It's clearly intentional. They're deliberately messing with us. The commotion erupted once again. Silas stood beside me, staring at me intently, gritting his teeth as he repeated, Mr. Lynn, you will pay for today's decision. After saying that, he immediately pulled out his phone right in front of me. He dialed the principal's number. As soon as the call connected, he cried out in a choked voice, Principal, come to class 1, grade 12, right now. Teacher Arthur is deliberately hiding the secret exam papers and refusing to explain them to us. The college entrance exam is tomorrow. He's trying to ruin our lives. After hanging up, he looked at me, his eyes filled with the glee of revenge. The surrounding students instantly gained confidence, and the jeering grew even louder. That's right, let the principal judge this. What kind of teacher acts like this? Let's see how you keep talking tough when the principal gets here. In less than 10 minutes, the classroom door was flung open. The principal walked in with a dark expression. He glanced around the chaotic classroom, finally fixing his gaze firmly on me, his tone full of barely contained anger. Arthur, what on earth is going on? The students' calls have reached my office. Jace immediately chimed in, adding fuel to the fire as he shouted, "Principal!" He deliberately hid the secret exam prediction papers and refused to teach us. The college entrance exam is tomorrow. He's trying to ruin our entire lives. That's right, Principal. He always gave them out in previous years, but this year he just won't. We begged him for an entire class, but he was completely unmoved and didn't care at all about our futures. The entire class instantly joined in, crying, shouting, and causing a scene, all of it accusations against me. It was as if I weren't the teacher who had taught them for 3 years, but a criminal who had ruined their lives. The principal's face darkened even further as he took a step forward, glaring at me. In an unquestionable tone, he issued an ultimatum. "Arthur, I order you right now to immediately take out your secret exam prediction papers and teach the students. If this affects the school's college admission rate this year, you can forget about being a teacher here anymore." Everyone was looking at me, their eyes filled with smugness and confidence in their victory. They were certain that, with the principal having spoken, I could no longer refuse. But in this life, forget the principal's orders. Even if the King of Heaven himself came, I would never give anything to these ungrateful wolves again. Looking at the principal's furious face and the triumphant gleam in the students' eyes below the stage, I opened my mouth and uttered a sentence that left everyone present utterly dumbfounded. "Principal, if you want to expel me, I have no objection, but I do not have the secret exam prediction papers." The principal stood frozen in place. He probably never dreamed in his wildest dreams that I, who had always been diligent in my work and obedient to him, would defy him publicly. "Arthur, have you lost your mind?" The principal's voice suddenly rose sharply, his whole body trembling with anger. "Do you even realize what you're saying? The college entrance exam is tomorrow. Are you trying to ruin the entire school's admission rate?" Admission rates aren't built by cramming with a single set of predicted exam questions. My tone was calm, yet each word carried weight. Over these 3 years, I haven't missed a single lesson on the key knowledge points they needed to learn or the problem-solving logic they needed to master. I taught them everything. They have their notes. They have their error notebooks. Whether they do well on the exam depends on them, not on one set of predicted questions from me. The principal was left speechless by my retort, his face turning pale then flushing with anger. Jay snapped back to his senses and immediately jumped in to fan the flames. "Principal, look, he's doing this on purpose. He just doesn't want us to do well. Someone like him doesn't deserve to be a teacher at all. Yeah, he doesn't deserve to be a teacher." The room erupted into chaos again in an instant, with waves of curses rising one after another. I shot a cold glance at Jace. "Whether I deserve to be a teacher or not isn't for you to judge. How many times did you copy homework over these 3 years? How many classes did you skip? How many classmates were affected by your early romance? Should I calculate it all clearly, item by item, right here in front of the principal?" Jace's face instantly turned pale, his neck stiffening as he couldn't utter a word for a long time. I turned to look at the principal and continued, "Principal, I have already submitted my transfer application. After the college entrance exam, I will teach the first-year high school students. I will no longer serve as the homeroom teacher for the third-year class. For this year's college entrance exam, I will accompany the students as required, but I cannot provide the secret prediction papers. If the school considers me derelict in my duties and decides to dismiss me, I will accept it." The principal was completely stunned. He looked at me as if he were seeing me for the first time. He knew all too well my value to the school. The classes I taught consistently ranked among the top 3 in the city for average math scores, with a 100% admission rate to first-year universities. They were the school's genuine golden brand, let alone dismissal. Even if I only taught the first-year students, it would be a huge loss for the school. His expression shifted repeatedly, and in the end, he gritted his teeth and shot a fierce glare at the students below the stage. "What's all this commotion? Teacher Lin has taught you for 3 years and covered everything he should. You didn't pay attention in class, and now you're forcing the teacher for prediction papers. Aren't you ashamed?" The students were completely stunned. They never expected that the principal wouldn't pressure me but instead turned around and scolded them. The principal then turned to me, his tone softening considerably but still firm. "Arthur, I won't force you about the prediction papers, but during these 2 days of the college entrance exam, you must guard the exam site well and handle the student escort duties without any slip-ups. As for the job transfer matter, we'll discuss it after the exam ends." After saying that, he turned and left with a dark expression. The students looked at me, the triumph in their eyes turning to shock, then to intense resentment and unwillingness. They just couldn't figure it out. Why even the principal couldn't keep me in check. Why I'd rather lose my job than give them a set of predicted exam papers. I ignored their varied looks. There was 1 minute left until the evening self-study bell. I took out a stack of exam admission tickets from the lectern drawer, 42 tickets. I walked along the desks, handing one to each student, and instructed, "Keep your admission ticket safe. Don't miss the exam time. Make sure to check your ID card and stationery in advance." When it was handed to Silas, he took the exam admission ticket and frowned again. "Teacher Lin, in previous years, didn't you Always keep the admission tickets for the senior students and hand them out to us one by one at the school gate on the exam day. Why are we responsible for keeping them ourselves this year? Not just in previous years, but in my past life, I was also afraid they might lose their admission tickets or oversleep and miss the exam on the exam day. I would wait at the school gate 2 hours early, calling out names one by one, handing out admission tickets one by one, and sending them into the exam hall one by one, terrified of any mishap. And what was the result? When I was in trouble, not a single one of these people remembered this kindness of mine. I just replied indifferently, "You're all adults, take care of your own belongings." But Silas still wanted to say something. "Seriously, class rep, you're going to manage this too?" Jace's voice rang out again. He shook the admission ticket in his hand and casually stuffed it into his pants pocket. "If you can't even keep your exam admission ticket safe, what's the point of taking the college entrance exam? You're already 18, and you can even miss the exam time. Isn't that just pathetic? Pathetic, isn't it?" In his past life, Jace himself was the very person he called pathetic for losing his exam admission ticket. Looking at Silas, I still recall the words he said in my previous life. "Arthur, you know exactly what you've done. I've finally made it into Tsinghua University, with a bright future ahead of me. Don't drag me down with you." Ding ding ding, the bell for the end of evening self-study rang right on time. I picked up my lesson plan and turned to walk out of the classroom. I went home, I took a hot shower, I went to bed early. I had a good night's sleep. Early the next morning, the first subject of the college entrance exam was Chinese. I arrived at the entrance of the test center half an hour early. The entrance of the test center was packed with people. My colleague, teacher Mina, stood beside me. In her hands, she held a thick roster and a stack of exam admission tickets, calling out names one by one and distributing them accordingly. She was so busy that sweat beaded on her forehead. Seeing me empty-handed, she paused in surprise. "Arthur, where are the exam admission tickets for your class? Why don't you have them?" I smiled. "I let them keep their own." Mina's eyes widened in astonishment. "Didn't you always collect and distribute them on the same day in previous years? Aren't you afraid they'll lose them? If they lose them, that's their own problem, their own lives, their own responsibility. I'm just a teacher, not their babysitter." Mina looked at me as if she were seeing me for the first time. "So you've finally come around. You've always been too invested in the students, wanting to manage everything, striving for perfection in everything. Your prediction papers get more accurate every year, the admission rates keep rising higher. You've been pushing us veteran teachers so hard we can barely breathe. If you can ease up a bit now, we'll all be more comfortable." I was taken aback. I never imagined that my dedication to work and my wholehearted efforts for the students in my past life had placed such a heavy burden on my colleagues. Suddenly, hurried footsteps rushed over. It was Jace. He was drenched in sweat, his face pale, phone pressed to his ear, dialing over and over again. When he saw me, it was as if he had spotted a savior. He rushed over, grabbed my arm, and said, "Teacher Lin, I haven't been able to reach Selena. Can you go check on her at her place?" I looked at him, suppressing the urge to laugh, and said patiently, "Are you sure she's in the same exam hall as you? Maybe she's already gone inside." Jace was so anxious he was hopping on his feet. "We're in the same exam hall, and our seat numbers are next to each other. There's no way she went in alone." In my previous life, at this very moment, I also encountered him here, flustered and panicked. After asking for details, I learned that the two of them had gone wild at a bar the night before. Without a second thought, I borrowed a car from a parent, drove straight to Selena's house, dragged her out of bed while she was still hungover, ran every red light along the way, and got her into the exam hall just 1 second before it closed. Before she went in, she even complained that I had messed up her hair, not even saying a word of thanks. In this lifetime. On the surface, I agreed to Jace's request. But in reality, I booked a ride-sharing car during the morning rush hour. No one accepted the ride request at all until the broadcast at the exam site sounded, "Please enter the exam hall in an orderly manner. The exam hall is about to close." Jace looked at the tightly shut exam hall door, and his face instantly turned ashen. He gritted his teeth, could only turn around, and rushed into the examination hall. He had only run a couple of steps, then he suddenly stopped. His hands fumbled in his trouser pockets, his face growing paler and paler. He had left his exam admission ticket at the bar. In the end, Jace also failed to enter the examination hall. 2 other students also encountered problems. Just like him, one arrived half an hour late. The other left their ID card at home. There were 42 people in the whole class. In the first subject, 4 people were directly eliminated. In the afternoon, it was the math exam. I was still standing at the entrance of the test center with Mina, chatting idly. The bell signaling the end of the exam rang. The examinees came out of the examination hall one after another. The expressions on their faces were varied and diverse. Some were smiling, some were crying, and some were expressionless. Silas walked at the very front. His face was deathly pale. It was as if his soul had been completely drained from his body. Seeing me, he walked over, his voice choked with tears. "Teacher Lin, it was too hard. I couldn't solve the last 2 key problems at all. 30 points. I could only watch helplessly as I lost them, the other students behind Him also gathered around. Each one of them looked utterly dejected. I couldn't do it either. I left the second question completely blank. I had no idea how to approach the derivative problem. I didn't even understand the question stem. It's over. It's over. I completely bombed the math exam. A chorus of wails filled the air. Mina, listening nearby, quietly tugged on my sleeve, leaned in close to my ear, and whispered, "Arthur, in previous years, you always managed to predict the last two challenging problems, didn't you? How come you didn't manage it this year?" I smiled. The question types changed too much this year. I couldn't keep up with the pace either. Mina looked at me and raised an eyebrow, clearly not believing it. I just stared into the distance. Jace and Selena did not appear at the entrance of the examination hall. Both of them also missed the math exam. The 2 days of the college entrance exam passed quickly. When the bell rang for the final subjects exam, I was in the office, packing up my things. I packed 3 years' worth of lesson plans, error notebooks, and teaching materials neatly into cardboard boxes. Then I submitted my application for the new semester. I won't be teaching the senior year class anymore. I applied to teach the freshman class, to work with new students. The school leaders were stunned for a long time when they saw my application. They called me several times to try and persuade me. They said I was the school's golden signboard, and that only by teaching the top senior year class could I truly utilize my value. They promised to raise my salary and recommend me for the special grade teacher title if I continued teaching the senior year. I turned them all down. My stance was firm: either let me teach the 10th grade, or I would resign. The school ultimately agreed. After finishing all the remaining tasks, I bought a plane ticket to Xinjiang and rented an off-road vehicle. I called my girlfriend Arya. "I'm taking a vacation, going on a road trip to Xinjiang. Do you want to come?" On the other end of the line, Arya was silent for several seconds, then came a voice filled with disbelief. "Arthur, what did you say? You're actually willing to take a vacation? Has the sun risen from the west?" I laughed. Arya was my college classmate. We've been together for 7 years. In my past life, I was a complete workaholic. My eyes were only on the students, only on the college admission rates, only on my predictive modeling for exam questions. She asked me out for dinner, but I was tutoring students. She invited me on a trip, but I was preparing for the college entrance exam crash course. She proposed to me, and I told her, "Let's talk after this year's students finish their college entrance exams." One wait turned into 3 years, and then another 3 years, until something happened to me. She ran around tirelessly, hiring the best lawyer for me and finding the best doctors for my parents. Every month, she visited me at the detention center. She told me to tell you, she's waiting for me to get out. Wait for me for 10 years. In this lifetime, I don't want to let her down again, nor do I want to let down my own life anymore. Are you going or not? If not, I'm going by myself, I said with a smile. "Going? We must go." Arya's voice instantly brightened. "Wait for me. I'll book a flight right now. Take leave. I'll be there immediately." A 2-week self-drive tour in Xinjiang. We visited Seiram Lake. We went to the Nalati grassland. We traveled along the Duko Highway. We explored the ancient city of Kashgar. I muted my work group chats, turned off all contact methods related to students, watching the sunrise, sunset, snow-capped mountains, and lakes every day. Arya drove. I sat in the passenger seat, listening to music, feeling the breeze. No need to think about anything, no need to worry about anything. Only then did I realize that besides exam papers and admission rates, there are so many beautiful things in life. By the shore of Seiram Lake, I proposed to Arya. I said, "Arya, I always used to say I'd wait until after the students' college entrance exams. Now, can you wait for me? Will you marry me?" She smiled and nodded, putting on the ring. "All right, before the new semester starts, we'll get married, and we can start planning for having children too." I held her and spun around several times by the lake. I was grinning like a fool. Half a month later, we returned from Xinjiang. The plane landed, and I turned on my phone. The moment the screen lit up, countless messages flooded in like a frenzy, vibrating until my hand went numb. The college entrance exam scores were out. I first opened the grade-wide score statistics table sent by the school. The numbers for Class 1, Grade 12, stunned the eyes. In previous years, the classes I taught had an average math score of 132, consistently ranking first in the grade and among the top 3 in the city. This time, the average math score was 102, ranked third from the bottom in the grade. In previous years, the first-year university admission rate was 100%, with at least 2 students admitted to Tsinghua and Peking universities. This time, the first-year university admission rate is 40%, 0 admissions to Tsinghua and Peking universities. Not a single student from our class made it into the top 100 in science in the entire city. The news keeps pouring in. The class group chat has already exploded. Crying, cursing, complaining, and there were those constantly flooding the chat, asking why I didn't provide the secret prediction papers. The parents group chat was even worse. 99 plus unread messages. Scrolling up, all of them were directed at me. "Teacher Lin, our child scored above the first-year university cutoff in every mock exam, but this time they didn't even reach the second-tier line. You must give us an explanation. In previous years, you always gave out prediction papers. Why not this year?" Are you deliberately hiding them? We entrusted our child to you for 3 years, and this is the result you've delivered. How can you face us? My child's life is ruined. Arthur, you're responsible for this. Every word was filled with overwhelming resentment, just like in my past life. When they cyberbullied my parents, my phone suddenly rang. It was Jace's father. I answered the call, and a deafening roar came from the other end. Arthur, you come out here. My son missed both the Chinese and math exams. What kind of homeroom teacher are you? The day before the college entrance exam, he went out fooling around. Didn't you know you should have controlled him? If you had, would he have missed the exams? We only have this one son. If his life is ruined, don't think yours will be any better. I didn't say a word. I hung up the phone directly blocked. Immediately after, Selena's mother called. Her tone was sharp, tinged with sobs. Teacher Lynn, our Selena has been a good girl her whole life. If you hadn't neglected to supervise her, would she have gotten involved with Jace? Would she have missed the college entrance exam? You're the homeroom teacher. You didn't stop the students from dating early. What were you thinking? Now she can't even get into a junior college. What do you expect her to do in the future? I'm still the same. Hang up the phone. Block. The phone fell silent. Arya held my hand, frowning. Maybe we should leave it for now and talk about it when we get home. I shook my head, opened the class grade sheet, looked at each name, one by one. Jace, total score 203 points, Chinese 0 points, math 0 points, science 112 points, English 91 points. Even the lowest provincial college control line was missed by a full 50 points. The afternoon the results came out, his parents made a scene at the school. They blocked the entrance to the academic affairs office, pounding on the table and shouting. They accused me of lacking professional ethics and being irresponsible. They said I condoned student puppy love and turned a blind eye. They claimed I deliberately failed to remind students of exam precautions, ruining their child's future. They demanded the school fire me. They demanded I compensate them for emotional distress. 800,000 yuan. The head of the academic affairs office called me, telling me to come and handle it. I went, standing at the entrance of the academic affairs office, watching Jace's parents throw a tantrum. Jace stood beside them, head lowered, hair dyed yellow, looking sloppy and unable to utter a complete sentence. I took a deep breath and said, first, before the college entrance exam, I emphasized in class no less than 10 times, no early relationships affecting studies, no drinking or staying up late before the exam. He didn't listen. Second, the night before the exam, he took Selena to a hotel to drink. That was his own choice. I am not his guardian. I have no obligation to follow him 24/7. Third, I handed him his exam admission ticket in advance and repeatedly reminded him to keep it safe. He lost it himself and couldn't enter the exam hall. The responsibility is not mine. Jace's mother jumped up, pointing at my nose and cursing. Bullshit. You're the homeroom teacher. If something happens to him, it's your responsibility. You collected the admission tickets every year, but not this year. What are you up to? You did this on purpose. I smiled helplessly. I'm a teacher, not a nanny. He's already 18, an adult, and needs to take responsibility for his own actions. If you have any issues with how I handled this, you can file a complaint with the Education Bureau. Follow the proper procedures. If you continue to cause trouble here, I'll call the police. Jace's parents were stunned. They probably didn't expect Arthur, who is always gentle and accommodating to students and parents, to be so firm. In the end, they were escorted out of the school by security. Before leaving, Jace's mother made a threatening remark. This isn't over. Later, they did go to the Education Bureau to file a complaint. The Education Bureau investigated all the circumstances and dismissed their appeal. That's how the matter was eventually dropped. Jace's life took a wrong turn into a dead end the day the college entrance exam ended. No school to attend, no skills to speak of, too good for some jobs, not good enough for others. I've been lying at home for 3 months. I've been hanging out with Selena every day. Selena is in an even worse situation than him. The total score is 217 points out of 4 subjects, 2 were missed. Can't even get into a decent technical school. The 4th month after the college entrance exam ended, Selena is pregnant. The 2 families hastily arranged a wedding. The wedding was quite slapdash. Jace's parents had always looked down on Selena, believing she had led their son astray. Selena's parents also thought Jace was hopeless and had ruined their daughter's life. At the wedding, the 2 families nearly got into an argument. After getting married, the couple used the 100,000 yuan given by both sets of parents to open a milk tea shop near the school gate. They had no experience, they had no plan. Work by fits and starts. It opens at 11 a.m. and closes at 6 p.m. The hygiene is a complete mess. They can't bear to throw away ingredients even when they've gone bad. In less than half a year, the bubble tea shop went out of business. 100,000 yuan was lost completely. The money is gone. The conflict between the 2 of them erupted completely. They argue at home every day. They throw things. They blame each other. Jace calls Selena a spendthrift who brings Him bad luck, Selena calls Jace useless, a good-for-nothing. Their child had just turned 1 when the two started talking about divorce. They went to court over custody and the bride price. I later heard they did end up getting divorced. The child was awarded to Selena. Jace went to work in another city, carrying bricks on a construction site. He lasted less than 2 months, found it too tiring, and ran off. He changed countless jobs, none of which he stuck with for long, and still relied on his parents for support to get by. Selena took the child and returned to her parents' home. She worked as a cashier in a supermarket, earning 3,000 yuan a month, barely making ends meet. In the class group chat, someone occasionally mentioned the two of them. It was all sighs of regret. No one remembered anymore the class monitor who was so full of spirit on the basketball court back in the day. No one remembers anymore the campus belle whose eyes would curve into crescents when she smiled. Their youth began in a haphazard mess and ended in a pile of scattered feathers. Silas only scored 112 on the math exam, a full 30 points lower than his mock exam. His total score just barely passed the threshold for a first-year university, leaving him with no choice but to attend a remote, non-double first-class university in the Northwest to study mechanical engineering. The major he detested the most, he couldn't accept it. Teacher Lin, you're the only one who can help me. Your secret prediction papers, your question bank modeling, only you can teach me. If you tutor me for a repeat year, I can definitely get into Tsinghua or Peking University next year. I'll pay for the tutoring. Any amount is fine. My parents also said they're willing to do anything as long as you agree to take me on. I calmly told him, I'll be teaching freshmen in the new semester, not the repeat class. My teaching method is a 3-year system. It can't be made up in just 1 year, if you want to. Repeat, the school has specialized teachers for the repeat class, all very experienced. Silas's face instantly turned pale. Teacher Lin, have I offended you in some way? Tell me, I'll change. I really will. As long as you agree to teach me, I'll listen to everything you say. I'll do whatever you ask. It's not your problem. I shook my head. It's my work arrangement. I don't teach the repeat class. That's what I agreed with the school. Your foundation is very good, as long as you settle down and thoroughly grasp the knowledge points, you can do well without relying on any secret prediction papers. Seeing that he couldn't persuade me, Silas left later. Silas chose to repeat the year, entered the school's repeat class. Before the start of the semester, he approached me several more times, sent hundreds of messages on WeChat, asked me for summaries of key knowledge points, asked me for materials on question bank modeling, asked if I could occasionally explain a couple of problems to him. I refused all of them. During that year of repeating, he studied like a madman, studying until 2 or 3 in the morning every day, getting up at 5 in the morning to memorize texts, always ranking first in every mock exam in the class. Everyone believed he would definitely get into Tsinghua or Peking University the following year, the second year of the college entrance exam. The results came out. He still performed poorly, scoring 108 in mathematics. It was 4 points lower than the first year. The total score didn't even reach the first-year university cutoff. On the night he checked his results, he gave me a call over the phone. He cried his heart out. Teacher Lin, why? I worked so hard. Why did I still do poorly? I waited until he finished crying before I spoke. You were putting effort in the wrong direction. You kept trying to predict questions and hunt for key points, but you didn't even master the most basic formulas and theorems. The college entrance exam tests your knowledge system, not just 1 or 2 final, challenging problems. Not long after, I heard he was going to take the college entrance exam for the 3rd time. His parents were initially opposed to it. The family's financial situation was already modest, and repeating a year had cost a lot of money, but they couldn't withstand his threats of suicide. During this 3rd attempt, he became even more obsessive. He searched everywhere for so-called prediction papers and internal study materials. He enrolled in countless exorbitantly priced crash courses. The 3rd year of the college entrance exam, the results are out. It's even worse. The total score just passed the second-tier university cutoff in math. He only scored 97 points. His parents were completely devastated. They had a huge argument with him. They told him to stop taking the exam, just go to any second-tier university and find a job after graduation. He refused. He locked himself in his room for 3 days and 3 nights without stepping out. When he finally emerged, he declared he was going to take the college entrance exam for the 4th time. He refused to believe he couldn't get into a good university this time. His parents absolutely refused to agree. They cut off his living expenses. They told him to either attend the second-tier university or go out and find a job. He had a complete falling out with his family. He moved out on his own and rented a single room near the school, working odd jobs while preparing for the college entrance exam. Life was very tough, yet his obsession grew deeper and deeper. The 4th year of taking the college entrance exam, the results came out. His total score was only enough to get into a private 3rd-tier university. Tuition was 28,000 yuan per year. It was even worse than his score from the first year's exam. Selena and Silas, along with the remaining 39 students, each had their own outcomes. The boy who overslept and was half an hour late for the Chinese language exam was Named Hunter, his total score just barely passed the threshold for a junior college. He repeated a year of study. Still, he didn't manage to get into a bachelor's program in the end. He joined the military. The girl who left her ID card at home and missed the math exam was named Daisy. After the college entrance exam, she dropped out of school directly, following relatives. I went to work at an electronics factory in the South, working in 2 shifts, 12 hours a day. There were also over a dozen students with average grades in my previous life, relying on my secret exam prediction papers. They barely made it into a first-year university this time. Most only got into a junior college. Their parents were the most vocal in their complaints. They tagged me in the parent group chat every day, accusing me of being irresponsible, withholding secrets, and ruining their children's futures. They called me an unethical teacher, unfit to be an educator. I just left the parent group, but ever since then, my reputation in the parent circle has changed. Some say I'm aloof, some say I'm cold-blooded. Some say I'm irresponsible. No parents are scrambling to get their kids into my class anymore. I actually found some peace and quiet. Most of the students who went to vocational colleges found ordinary jobs locally: supermarket cashier, food delivery courier, real estate agent, auto mechanic. Every year at the class reunion, when they gather, they always complained, saying that Teacher Lin was too heartless back then. If he had given them the secret exam prediction papers, their lives wouldn't be like this. Now, they never considered. For those 3 years, I broke down every piece of knowledge, ground it to bits, and spoon-fed it right into their mouths. I taught during class, after class, and even during evening self-study. The blackboard was filled to the brim with notes. Their mistake notebooks were flipped through again and again. It was they themselves who never truly listened, who never truly received it. There were only 5 students. They attended class diligently, took neat and tidy notes, and their mistake notebooks were worn from constant use. This time, I performed normally and got into a good 985 university. September 1 st. The new school year begins. I stood in the classroom of Class 3, Grade 10, looking at the youthful faces below. Their eyes were filled with curiosity about high school life and anticipation for the future. I picked up a piece of chalk. On the blackboard, I wrote my name. Sunlight streams through the window, spilling onto the blackboard. It spills onto the name I wrote, and it spills onto the faces below, each one lost in thought. I smile and open my lesson plan. All right, class begins. Today, we'll cover the basic concepts of sets. The cicadas chirping outside the window reaches my ears. Another new summer has arrived. I am still that math teacher who loves the podium. Story 2. My best friend has been completely hooked on online dating and hookups. I warned her to be careful and ask for a health check report before meeting up, especially since there's been a recent uptick in certain STIs. She just scoffed. If I end up catching something, I can take the consequences. 3 months later, she tested positive for HIV. In her breakdown, she actually stabbed a blood-filled syringe into my arm, with odds of 1 in 1,000. How could this possibly happen to me? This is all because of your jinx, you and your cursed mouth. Stunned and furious, I rushed to take preventive medication. But it was too late to change my fate. I've been living in constant dread ever since. She posted an AI-generated intimate video of me on her social media, sobbing uncontrollably as she wrote, "She's the one who slept around, and even tampered with her sanitary pads to poison me. She's the one who infected me." In an instant, my reputation was ruined and my immune system weakened. A simple cold became the death of me. After my death, my parents' hair turned white overnight. They wanted to defend me but couldn't tell AI from Photoshop, so they believed the lies and died heartbroken. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the moment she was boasting about her one-night stand. I quietly swallowed my words of caution. Instead, I handed her a box of imported candies. "They're new," I said. "Rumor has it they make the experience more intense." The glow from her phone screen illuminated Crystal's excited face. She was scrolling through a popular platform, posting her own provocative photos in the comments section. The men's profile pictures varied in style, but without exception they'd all hearted her latest retouched selfie, and the comments were even more unsavory. This type, I'd pin her down and have my way with her. "Hey girl, I've been using your photos for some naughty stuff. Don't be mad at me. You look absolutely filthy. Wanna hook up?" In the photo, she'd spent 2 hours editing it, posing by a luxury hotel pool in a bikini, with a smoking hot body and seductive eyes. "Check this one out. She claims to be an international student, and this one's a model. Damn, that body is insane." She kept chattering away as she showed me, her tone practically dripping with smugness. I just gave a slight smirk and didn't respond. 185, 130, 18, wow, what a total hottie. Crystal excitedly hugged her phone, continuously typing replies. I fell silent once more, haunted by memories of my past life. The urge to end her right here, right now, was almost overwhelming, but I held back. Given this second chance at life, I couldn't throw it all away by becoming a fugitive, wasting my time on someone so undeserving. I desperately tried to calm myself down. In my previous life, it was at this very moment that I naively advised her to only be with partners who had recent health checkups and to always use protection. All I got was an eye roll from her. Seriously, what era do you think this is? If you can't handle the game, don't play. Even if you do get sick, you've got to be able to take the consequences. Life's too short not to live it up. Besides, HIV is way more common among men who have sex with men. What's there to worry about with heterosexual encounters? I was so worried about her that I even asked our mutual friend Fiona to talk some sense into her, but they ended up becoming party buddies and ganged up on me, calling me an old prude who needed to learn to live a little. Things escalated when she started staying out all night. Her social media check-ins shifted to nightclubs and hotels, and the men in her photos became increasingly unrecognizable. Eventually, tall black men started appearing in her photos, captured in intimate poses with her. When I gently suggested she avoid dating black men, she flew into a rage. She came home reeking of alcohol, with suspicious red marks on her neck, and bragged to me, "Lillian, you have no idea. Black men's stamina is just incredible. The experience is out of this world. Want to give it a try? I can set you up." I was too stunned to speak. My silence seemed to be mistaken by her for envy or bashfulness. She let out a derisive snort and clumsily climbed into bed. Later, rumors about her chaotic private life began circulating around school, and my reputation suffered by association since I was always with her as her bestie. I reached out to her with good intentions, trying to subtly remind her to be cautious since I've heard some infectious diseases are making a comeback lately, but she immediately got defensive and gave me a strange look. "Lillian, what? Are you implying, jealous that I know how to have fun? Don't police my life just because you're too uptight. You couldn't even begin to imagine the scale of what I'm experiencing. What, you want one too? Should I introduce you? I'm bored with it anyway." That expression of hers, a mix of disdain and some strange sense of pride, is still vivid in my memory. I chose to stay silent again, unaware that in her eyes, my silence had become another mark of guilt. Later, she tested positive. It wasn't just any ordinary illness. In her breakdown, instead of reflection, she unleashed all her resentment on me while I was off guard, searching for her prep medication. She jabbed a bloodied needle into my arm, her face contorted with rage as she screamed, "Why me? Of all people, why does it have to be me? A 1 in 1,000 chance, and it lands on me. Weren't you all high and mighty? Thought you were so clean. You jinxed this. You're coming to hell with me." My life was turned completely upside down from that moment on. Under public pressure, I dropped out. I took my medication, fought to survive, while she went on every social platform to twist the truth. She posted grotesquely edited AI videos of me, sobbing about how I'd caught some filthy disease from sleeping around and deliberately infected her, her innocent best friend. After death, I watched helplessly as my parents tried to clear my name, but they didn't understand AI or Photoshop, believed the lies, and died heartbroken. I hate that I ever met this toxic friend, and I hate myself for not cutting ties with her sooner. Crystal's excited voice rang in my ears again. "Wow, he looks mixed race. He said he wants to take me out for a drink tonight." She pointed at a photo of a black man with sharp features but a flirtatious gaze on her phone screen, then turned to me with predatory glint in her eyes and curiosity about my reaction. I heard myself say in a flat, almost lazy tone, "Oh, well, have fun." I handed her a box of imported candies, something new. They say it makes the experience more intense. Crystal paused, eyeing me suspiciously. "Where'd you get these?" "Came across them online. Stocked up since I know you like them," I said with a light chuckle. "What do you mean I like it? Aren't you secretly wanting it too?" Crystal took the candy and deliberately pretended to be annoyed, then added in an amused tone, "Weren't you the one always sharing videos of muscular guys? Stop pretending you want this too, don't you?" I lowered my eyelids, suppressing my emotions. Admittedly, I used to make thirsty comments under videos of handsome guys too. My campaign promise was that if I got him, all my sisters here could have a turn, but that was just playful banter, nothing serious. I thought she had principles like I do. Who would have thought she'd say yes to every date, going out every single day without taking any precautions? She has zero sense of self-protection. I do. But I want to find a boyfriend I genuinely like. I looked up, agreeing with her, and added, "My standards are a bit high, so it's not easy. How are you going to find anyone if you never go out? Come on, I'll show you around today. I have to work on a report tonight. My advisor is breathing down my neck. Maybe next time." I gave a slightly regretful smile and politely declined her offer. Crystal's smile faded a bit as she pursed her lips. "How boring. Why not just hire someone to write it for you? Life's short. You should seize the day. Don't you get it?" Seeing her somewhat disappointed expression, I suddenly seemed to remember something and casually mentioned, "By the way, I think I just saw Fiona online too. Isn't she always the life of the party? Why didn't you invite her to join us?" Fiona was our mutual bestie, but when Crystal got diagnosed in our past life, she was the one making the biggest scene. She wasn't even sick. Yet with a few carefully selected chat screenshots and her heartbroken testimony, she successfully painted me as the bad influence who corrupted Crystal. While she stayed completely under the radar and soaked up all the sympathy, Crystal's eyes lit up, but then she pouted. Why invite her? She's been all lovey-dovey with her boyfriend lately. Doubt she has time. Oh, really? I chuckled, tidying my desk with a casual tone. Just the other day, she mentioned finding her boyfriend too dull and wanting some excitement. Plus, hasn't she always said she admires how freely you live your life? Crystal fell silent, but her fingers started scrolling faster across her phone screen. Didn't Fiona want to keep her hands clean and watch the drama unfold from the sidelines? This time around, she won't get through this mess unscathed. Watching Crystal's lips curl back into a smile as she typed her message, I picked up my glass and took a sip. In the dead of night, Crystal's location shared on my screen lit up the darkness, a speakeasy tucked away in the Old Town district, accompanied by a suggestive photo, several dark-skinned young men gathered around a booth, with colorful liquor bottles and smoking paraphernalia scattered across the table. Babe, tonight's party is lit, all imported hotties. This mixed-race guy keeps asking if you're coming, says he's totally into your innocent yet seductive vibe. Get over here. I'll send you the address. Every word drips with manufactured excitement and deliberately crafted perks that feel cheap and tacky. If it were the naive me from my past life who was always worried about her safety, I'd probably be frantic right now, thinking of ways to gently persuade her to leave that sketchy environment, maybe even muster the courage to go find her myself. But now, reading that message, all I feel is bitter irony. Imported boy toy, that innocent yet seductive act, a black guy, but in this lifetime, karma probably won't strike so quickly. I remember back then, she must have slept with that black exchange student named Mike. It was only after finding out he swung both ways that everything else happened. I tapped out a casual reply. Not tonight. Sorry, haven't washed my hair or put on any makeup. Can't let anyone see me like this. Next time. The message was sent and got an almost instant reply. These guys are seriously hot. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. After Big Chili, there was a string of nonsensical characters, like someone had smashed the keyboard in overexcitement. Looking at those 2 words and the jumbled mess that followed, I could almost picture her eagerness to share her spoils, the urge to drag others down with her, especially someone like me whom she saw as acting holier than thou, had become almost instinctual. She was dying to pull everyone into the mud with her, and even wanted to play pimp to make a profit from it. I put down my phone and didn't reply. In the following days, Crystal Fiona remained active in the group chat. Her photos were always set in neon-lit clubs or private rooms, with ever-changing male companions of darker complexion. I kept urging them to share more videos and photos in the group, lavishing praise like great camera angle, and your new bedmate is gorgeous. Seeing that I didn't object to her behavior, she became even more brazen, openly sharing intimate photos in our 3-person group chat, calling it exploring the breadth of life and experiencing cultural differences. Occasionally, she'd come back late at night reeking of alcohol, making a racket on purpose. If she saw me reading with headphones on, she'd blow air into my ear. Lillian, you have no idea what you're missing. That feeling, wow. It's just incredible, totally different from those lame guys back home. Look, this is the bracelet he gave me. Next time, I'm dragging you along whether you like it or not. Her eyes were glazed over as she waited for my reaction. Playing along, I gazed at the cheap street vendor goods and sighed. These are lovely. What a shame my advisor needs me today. I envy your freedom. Enjoy it for both of us. I knew her brazen flaunting wouldn't last long. While university isn't an ivory tower, it does have fundamental boundaries. Sure enough, within a week, rumors began circulating in our department. Though no names were mentioned, the insinuations about certain female students having chaotic private lives and associating too closely with dubious individuals from outside the university were enough to draw sideways glances. During a large lecture in the auditorium, I distinctly noticed several girls in the front rows turning to glance in our direction, whispering among themselves. Crystal seemed to sense it too. At first she appeared slightly uncomfortable, but then straightened her posture and took out her compact to touch up her makeup with deliberate elegance. But I knew she cared. She thrived on attention, not criticism, too. Those judgmental and disdainful stares were starting to make her skin crawl. She needed backup, so she brought in Fiona, and the two of them bolstered each other's spirits. One afternoon, while I was organizing my notes in the dorm between classes, Crystal barged in looking upset and slammed her bag onto a chair. Damn it, I'm so pissed off. I looked up at her and said nothing. She kept venting on her own. It's just making friends. What's it to them? Their minds are as antiquated as unearthed artifacts. This is called openness and social freedom abroad. Don't they get it? I poured her a glass of water and slid it over, speaking gently. What's wrong? Who upset our Crystal? She seized the chance to vent, pouring it all out. Who else? Our dorm advisor. She just had a talk with me, hinting around about being mindful of my image and staying safe, saying there are shady groups targeting female students lately, as if I need her permission to choose my friends. Give me a break. I nodded in agreement. She is overstepping a bit, but I paused, letting a hint of concern show on my face. The advisor is just doing their job. I heard yesterday that campus logistics is tracking non-student entries into the Dorms, and they're being quite strict about it. Are your friends having any trouble getting in and out? Crystal's expression froze for a second. Why would there be any trouble? We're just spending money at legitimate establishments and making friends the right way. But her tone had lost some of its earlier conviction. I knew my words had hit home. She was getting worried this freedom would be curtailed. Worried she'd land in real trouble, and when people are anxious, they're more likely to make irrational decisions. A few days later, on a Friday evening, Crystal dressed up again, ready to head out. This time, she unusually didn't post any advance notice on her social media feed, and her movements seemed somewhat rushed. Before heading out, she glanced at me with a complex look in her eyes, but ultimately just pressed her lips together and quickly left. As for Crystal, she's already been held captive by that thrill and the feeling of special attention, making it hard for her to extricate herself. I picked up my phone, scrolled to the old news screenshot I'd saved earlier about past security incidents near that underground bar, and gently tapped delete. I returned to my desk, spread out my notes, and continued writing my report. Late one night a few days later, Crystal crept back into the dorm, carrying the lingering scent of cigarettes, alcohol, and cheap perfume. She didn't turn on the main light, fumbling her way to the bed by the dim glow of her phone screen. But she didn't lie down for a long while. I pretended to be woken up and mumbled, "You're back. Did you have fun? I covered for you during roll call." "Don't worry." She seemed startled, then leaned closer and tentatively asked, "Lillian, are you asleep? Can I ask you something?" "Huh, what's up?" I propped myself up. She pulled out her phone, the screen's glow reflecting in her uneasy eyes. "So, those 5-in-1 test strips you see online, for that kind of disease, do you think they're accurate? Are they actually reliable?" I scoffed inwardly, but on the surface, I just furrowed my brow and let out a yawn. "Those things, I heard they're way too sensitive. Sometimes they'll give you a scare even when nothing's wrong. They're more for peace of mind. If you want real results, you still need to get a blood test at the hospital." She let out an "oh," her expression visibly relaxing, though her doubts weren't completely gone. I added in a casual tone, "But it's kind of funny now that I think about it. I remember someone mentioning that Leo went through a phase of being paranoid too, using these exact test strips. After all that fuss, he went to the hospital for a checkup and it turned out to be nothing at all." Crystal froze for a second, her eyes lighting up. "Huh, I knew it. These things are totally unreliable. Just scaring myself for nothing." The next day, I saw her tearing open a newly arrived package containing several boxes of test strips from different brands. She locked herself in the bathroom for what felt like ages. When she finally emerged, her face showed relieved ease, even a hint of triumphant survival. Patting her chest while looking in the mirror, she murmured to herself, "With odds of 1 in 1,000, there's no way it could happen that easily." I sat at the desk with my back to her, a silent smirk playing on my lips. This is just the beginning. In the dead of night, I logged into that long-prepared alternate account on a fairly popular local campus gossip forum with anonymous posting. I published a thread calling out a homewrecker who knows exactly what she's doing. This player from the Foreign Languages Department, MSL, specifically targets taken men. Her hotel records are longer than a deck of cards. The post doesn't name names directly, but it's packed with highly specific clues: her department, her surname initial, her usual clubbing spots. It even hints at features of a somewhat famous basketball team captain who has a girlfriend that she recently hooked up with. The post details how MSL, fully aware these men are in committed relationships, still throws herself at them. With a frequent hookup history and an extremely messy private life, it serves as a warning to all girls to keep an eye on their boyfriends. I didn't post any actual photos, but the vivid descriptions were enough for those who know her to connect the dots. At first, there were only a handful of replies expressing shock and demanding more tea, but soon enough, insiders began anonymously adding details in the comments, spinning such convincing tales that someone even named the budget hotel she frequented. The buzz was slowly building. I closed the webpage and cleared my tracks. What she thought was a false alarm was merely the calm before the storm. The post spread through the anonymous forum faster than I had imagined. Maybe it's because Crystal's always been flashy and made plenty of enemies. Or maybe the whole knowingly being the other woman thing just hit a nerve with a lot of people. Within just a couple of days, rumors about that elf from the Foreign Languages College started making the rounds in the department, and even across the whole school. On Wednesday, the public showers were steamy. Crystal was rinsing off in her stall when 3 girls barged in, looking ready for a fight. "Crystal, you seemed pretty bold when you were hitting on my boyfriend, didn't you?" 3. Crystal frantically covered herself with a towel. "You've got the wrong person. Stop pretending. Your photos are all over the forum." Crystal dashed out of the cubicle screaming and ran right into me as I was passing by with my toiletries basket. Crystal grabbed my arm desperately. "Lillian, help me. They're going to hurt me." I feigned panic. "Don't fight. Let's talk this out." But I subtly shifted half a step aside, letting the girl in front easily grab Crystal's hair, pretending to break up the fight. My fingers accidentally tugged at the towel Crystal was clutching tightly. One could tell who was hitting whom. The scene descended into complete chaos. After the incident, Crystal grew noticeably restless, slamming things around the door more often and whispering with Fiona with increasing frequency, but their discussions seemed less about reflection or restraint, and more about finding like-minded partners through more discreet channels, almost with a defiant "the more you criticize, the more I'll do it" attitude. Looks like they still need more pressure. I dug up the social media account of that black exchange student named Mike from my past life memories. He has this habit of using multiple accounts to catfish people simultaneously, adopting Crystal's teasing yet casual tone. I sent a series of carefully crafted, seemingly misdirected flirty messages that successfully caught Mike's attention. "Hey, are you Crystal's friend? Did we meet at the party the other day?" Mike replied quickly, adding a suggestive emoji. "Maybe she said you're interesting, but I think I might have the wrong person. Sorry, I played hard to get." "No worries, a beautiful mistake. I'm Mike. Perhaps we could have a proper start." He took the bait instantly. Over the next few days, I juggled fending off Crystal's real-life attempts to drag me into the deep end while playing the role of her curious alt account fascinated by exotic experiences online. I subtly hinted that Crystal had been under immense pressure lately and was eager to find more thrilling ways to unwind, and implied she was quite interested in me, Mike, but was too prideful to make a direct move. On a Friday night when Crystal was in a foul mood over some nasty gossip and insisted on going out to let loose, I pretended to be her and arranged to meet Mike at a notorious underground bar, right after her usual hangout. "Okay, baby, can't wait to see you. It will be a hot night," Mike sent as his final message. I smirked coldly, replied with a shy emoji, and then wiped all the chat history and traces from this burner account. "Crystal, I hope you liked this little surprise." The weekend passed by quietly. At noon on Monday, as I was packing my books to head to the library, Crystal came back humming a tune, holding a small, plainly wrapped package with no sender information. "Oh, which admirer sent you this tribute?" Fiona leaned in with a hint of jealousy in her tone. Crystal tilted her chin up proudly. "Who knows? Maybe it's from some secret admirer, Lillian. Come take a look and help me see what's inside." She deliberately extended the box toward me. I set down my book and walked over, feigning curiosity and envy. "Looks intriguing. Let's see what's inside," I said with a light laugh, discreetly switching my phone to video mode and angling the lens toward her and the box. Crystal swiftly tore open the wrapping to reveal a small, plain black box without any markings. Muttering "so mysterious" under her breath, she lifted the lid. Inside the box was shock-absorbent foam, cradling a used, uncapped syringe needle. For the tip bore faint traces of dried, dark red blood. On the barrel, scrawled crudely in red marker, was a line of bold English text: "Welcome to the AIDS world." The smile froze on Crystal's face. Frowning, she picked up the syringe, seeming not to fully grasp the situation. "What is this? Some kind of sick joke? AIDS? What does that mean?" She murmured the word almost instinctively, but seemed unable to immediately connect it with the familiar Chinese term. Her face even showed a flicker of offended annoyance. "Who would do something so tasteless?" Fiona leaned in to look, and her face instantly paled. Her voice grew shrill as she said, "AIDS, it's AIDS." "Crystal, put it down now." Crystal's hand trembled, and the syringe nearly slipped from her grasp. She flung the object back into the box as if it had burned her, her face drained of color, lips trembling uncontrollably. AIDS? No, impossible. Who did this? Who the hell did this to me?" She let out a scream, her voice distorted by terror. I made sure to put on a convincingly panicked and bewildered expression, shrinking back slightly while my phone's camera steadily captured the entire scene. "Crystal, this is horrifying. Quick, look it up online. Could there be some mistake?" My voice trembling, I reminded her, skillfully guiding her toward the final confirmation. Crystal, as if clutching at a lifeline yet being forced to the execution ground, unlocked her phone with trembling fingers and typed AIDS into the search bar. When the familiar name of the disease and its terrifying images appeared on the screen, she let out a piercing, blood-curdling scream and collapsed to the floor. Fiona hovered nearby, offering empty words of comfort but not daring to come closer. I stood in the corner, watching with cold detachment. "Go ahead and scream, Crystal. Let the fear consume you. This is only the beginning. That syringe you handed me in our past life, that despair, now it's your turn to savor it." I quietly pressed the stop recording button. 5. And now, all I need to do is keep playing the part of the terrified, innocent roommate. I stepped forward, my voice trembling with tears, and said, "Crystal, don't scare me like this. It must be a prank. Should we tell our advisor first, or go to the hospital to get checked? What if it's fake? We can't tell the counselor." She gasped in panic. The next day, Crystal went to the bathroom twice. After discarding another used test strip, she kept searching on her phone for HIV window, period, and acute phase symptoms. "Lillian, I think I actually got it. 2 lines. Are these tests accurate?" Her voice trembled as she held the screen close to my face. "My throat's been sore for a couple days, and I've got this itching all over. Look here. Does this look swollen to you?" I tried to reassure her. "Crystal, you're just scaring yourself. It's just a common cold, and your immune system's down because you haven't been resting well." What are the chances that, but last week, right? After I was with that Mike guy, that's when I started feeling off. The timing matches up. That gift had to be from him. I sighed. Like I said, it's all in your head. The more you worry, the more everything feels wrong. Just try to relax and stop reading all that scary stuff online. In our past life, it was with this very face that she plunged the blood-stained needle into my arm. This fear I feel now is merely the interest. There. Stop crying. I handed her a tissue. Tell you what, if you're still worried, get tested again after the window period. No use torturing yourself with what-ifs right now. While my mouth offered comfort, my mind was running ice-cold calculations. A 3-month window period is more than enough. Fiona moved out without hesitation. Crystal glared at Fiona's empty bed and cursed. The moment I hit a rough patch, she bolts faster than anyone. I handed her a glass of water. Don't put all the blame on her. I overheard someone say the other day that Fiona mentioned in private she'd felt you were taking things too far for a while. She even tried to warn you, said if you'd listened, things might not have gotten this bad. I left the sentence hanging, but it was enough to pour fuel on the fire of Crystal's raging anger. Her eyes instantly reddened. She's lecturing me. Wasn't she even wilder back in the day? Who does she think she's fooling with this holier-than-thou act now? Another time, Fiona insisted on cutting ties with Crystal during a group project, afraid of getting dragged into her mess, which made Crystal break down sobbing in their dorm room. While comforting her, I casually mentioned, well, Fiona's probably just scared, but I heard she's been getting pretty close with that senior Lee who used to have a crush on you. She's been telling people that she saw this coming with you, and thank God she never joined you for those threesomes. The comment was half truth, half lie, but it hit Crystal right where it hurt most, that raw nerve of betrayal and the humiliation of being compared. She actually said that bitch. With Fiona, I took a different approach. When Fiona privately complained to me about being dragged down by Crystal and having her reputation tarnished, I lowered my voice and spoke in a confidential tone. You mustn't tell anyone, but Crystal mentioned to me before that you were the one who egged her on to do some of those things. And now you're acting all innocent. She also said if you dare ignore her, she'll spill all your secrets too. Fiona fumed. How could she do this? And so I moved through the ruins of their shattered friendship, planting seeds of doubt with hushed whispers and feeding their hatred with carefully chosen words. I made Crystal certain that Fiona was a two-faced hypocrite who'd stab her in the back when she was down. I made Fiona fear that Crystal was a deranged menace determined to drag her down into the abyss. The trust between them had long been riddled with holes. And I, with just a gentle nudge, sent them tumbling into the abyss of mutual hatred. The moment I saw Crystal becoming paranoid, I anxiously contacted our counselor, expressing concern about her mental state and requesting to live off campus. After the counselor spoke with her, the request was approved. I quickly moved her out of there, telling her it was for her own good and that I would take care of her from now on. With tears in her eyes, Crystal said emotionally, Lillian, you're all I have now. I held her hand in return, looking at her sincerely. Every cloud has a silver lining. You will get through this. After settling her in, I'd only drop by the apartment every few days, offering well-meaning reassurances. Feeling any better today? Crystal, don't overthink it. It's just a cold. The news says this flu strain is particularly nasty, and the symptoms sound just like yours. Googling symptoms again. How about watching a comedy to unwind? Each time, I was inadvertently feeding her denial and prolonging her anxiety. Fiona dropped out of the trio's group chat discussions and even started deliberately avoiding Crystal in public settings. Looking utterly disgusted, I remembered hearing her spread nasty rumors in my past life. Actually, Lillian's pretty shady too. She seems quiet, but who knows what she gets up to in private. Crystal probably got led astray by her. Ugh, but that's just my guess. Don't go repeating this. Fiona, you think you can walk away clean and even use us as stepping stones to whitewash her reputation? Fiona grew anxious herself and secretly bought a test kit. I knew she was nowhere near as wild as Crystal, so it was probably a false alarm, but why would I let her off with just a scare? Using that anonymous account that mimicked Crystal's tone, I reached out to a guy I knew who was notoriously adventurous with particular tastes. He had tried to pursue Fiona before, but it didn't work out. Using my alt account, I regretfully said, I haven't been feeling well lately, so I can't hang out with you, but my friend Fiona is really into you. She's got a wilder side and says she's totally your type. Too bad she's too shy to make the first move. At the same time, I sent Fiona an anonymous message with a flirty tone. Hey beautiful, I noticed you at the party last time. I was the one in the black jacket. A friend mentioned you might be into me too. Maybe we could hang out sometime and have some real fun. I promise it'll be unforgettable. Attached was a blurry photo of the guy from behind. Whether Fiona would take the bait or not, I wasn't sure. All it would take was a flicker of curiosity or a sliver of hope for her to reach out to that guy, and then I just had to wait. Sure enough, a few days later, Fiona went completely silent in the group chat. Instead, she'd started secretly searching for HIV symptoms. Once, when she frantically threw out the trash, I spotted an empty test kit box mixed in with the rubbish, and what looked like more than one line showing on the used test strip. 3 months flew by, with Crystal trapped in a cycle of repeated breakdowns in my hollow comfort. The window period had passed, so she decided to go to the CDC for the final test that morning. She called me, her voice trembling uncontrollably. "Lillian, I'm going for the test this afternoon. I'm so scared." "6, I replied with gentle firmness. "Don't be afraid, everything will be fine. Let me know the results after your checkup." After hanging up, I stared out the window. The sky was still. Overcast, perfect. That evening, I called her out of concern to ask how things went. There was a long silence on the other end, then an eruption of shattered, despairing screams. I can picture it all. How Crystal went from feigning composure to turning deathly pale, how her legs gave way when she heard the positive result, and how she crumbled before that doctor, who might have been sympathetic or just professionally detached. Her desperate sobs escalating into hysterical rage. She needed an outlet. A scapegoat to blame for her recklessness and misfortune, and in this life or the next, the one person she's dead set on dragging down with her is me, the best friend who once tried to talk sense into her, the one she dismisses as acting holier than thou and pretending to be a prude. Just as expected, within half an hour my phone started getting bombarded with calls from unknown numbers and messages on social media. At first, there were a few messages full of malicious assumptions and direct insults. "Lillian, you bitch, did you give this to me? You knew you were sick all along, didn't you? You look so innocent, but you're so filthy behind the scenes. Why don't you just die?" Soon, these personal emotional outbursts escalated into organized slander. Crystal clearly leveraged whatever lingering influence remained from her chaotic social circles. Posts targeting me began flooding our school's anonymous forum and several active social media groups. The headlines get more and more alarming, shocking. XX University student Lillian's promiscuous lifestyle and deliberate HIV transmission. Never judge a book by its cover. My best friend turned out to be the source of infection. Urgent help. My HIV-positive roommate maliciously pricked me. What should I do? The post fabricated outrageous lies, portraying me as someone with a depraved lifestyle and twisted psychology, a monster who, having contracted the disease themselves, couldn't stand to see others well, deliberately concealed their condition, had relations with multiple people, and even maliciously spread the virus. The post also included photoshopped intimate photos of me with different blurred male figures from behind, as well as Crystal's own crumpled, positive test report with key information redacted. The comments section was quickly flooded by trolls and outraged netizens who didn't know the full story. "Holy shit, for real. She looks so innocent though. Dox her. Someone like her doesn't deserve an education. The school must expel her and report her to the police. My heart goes out to you, OP, sending hugs. You must stand up for your rights." Some people even started leaking my class information, student ID number, and the general location of my temporary apartment, threatening to come and settle the score with me. My phone kept vibrating, the screen flooded with vicious curses and threats. If it were my past self, naive and helpless, facing this overwhelming cyberbullying, I probably would have broken down already, but now, watching those ridiculous performances, all I feel inside is a cold sense of mockery and the calm of having seen it all coming. Just as expected, Crystal made this move, identical to the last life, only even more malicious. I didn't respond immediately. Pride comes before a fall. Let her arrogance run its course. The more she struts, the more her true colors will show. But I remember in my previous life, my father crouched by the doorway, chain-smoking one cigarette after another, his once straight back gradually hunched over. The neighbors whispered and pointed, as the so-called smoking gun video spread like wildfire through our family group chat. The light in his eyes slowly faded, until only a dull, murky despair remained. My mother's hair turned white overnight as she wept, clutching my portrait, their trust shattered like glass against the weight of irrefutable evidence. In the end, my father succumbed to a sudden heart attack, consumed by sorrow, unable to bear the relentless blows. My mother followed him 6 months later. Good thing I came prepared this time. I showed my parents those AI-generated videos online, you know, the ones with cats cooking and dogs flying. At first, they actually believed it was real. It wasn't until they saw their own faces superimposed on attractive young people that they finally understood not everything online is real. The shock on their faces said it all. The moment those disgusting photoshopped images and vicious accusations started circulating, I immediately called home. Mom picked up, and I could hear Dad watching TV in the background. "Mom, I need to tell you something. Please don't let it shock you or Dad." "What's wrong, Lillian? What happened?" Mom's voice instantly tightened with worry. "It's nothing, just a little disagreement with my roommate Crystal, you know, the one who always dresses so fashionably. She's not exactly thinking straight, spouting nonsense online and even photoshopped my pictures." I tried to sound as casual as possible. "If you or Dad come across any weird videos or photos, don't believe a word of it. They're all fake, digitally manipulated, like those face swaps in TV dramas, designed to trick people who don't know any better." "What did she say about you? Why would she want to harm you?" "Because she's been living recklessly and caught some nasty disease. Now she's trying to pin it on me," I said with unwavering conviction. "Mom, you and Dad have To believe me, you know better than anyone what kind of person I am. I've already contacted a lawyer and the police are involved. If you're still worried, I'll go to the hospital tomorrow for a full checkup and send you the report. Lillian, don't be afraid. Your mother and I don't trust outsiders. We only believe our daughter. Who would dare do this to you? We'll sue them, even if it takes everything we have to bring them to justice. My nose tingled with emotion as I fought back the tears welling up in my eyes. Mom, Dad, thank you for believing in me. Please don't worry. I'm fine. Just stay away from all that nonsense online. If anyone asks, tell them it's all lies. Your daughter is innocent and we're taking legal action. Leave the rest to me. 7. After hanging up, I immediately made another call, a lawyer specializing in defamation disputes and online infringement cases. I sent him the evidence package I had prepared earlier. The main school group chat was buzzing with crystals revelations. Many people tagged my alternate account, eagerly sharing this juicy gossip. I typed out a line of text coldly, with the gossipy tone of an insider. TCH, you actually believe what Crystal is saying? Don't you know how wild she gets? At that last party, wasn't she bragging about how going without protection was more thrilling? And now that something's happened, she's trying to pin it on her roommate. That move is seriously next level. Yeah, she definitely said that before. I remember last time she had a fever, she was all paranoid, saying it was a sign of HIV, but it turned out to be just a common infection. Can't find a scapegoat, so they're dragging an innocent person into this. Any chat screenshots? Spill the tea. I didn't drop the bombshell right away, just kept fanning the flames. Let's wait for solid evidence. Something feels off about this. That roommate seems pretty reserved, not the type to get wild. Once the seed of doubt is planted, someone will inevitably dig deeper. Soon, people in the group started posting extremely explicit photos and controversial remarks that Crystal had previously shared on platforms like WeChat Moments and Weibo. Although the posts were quickly removed by moderators, many had already seen and saved them. Meanwhile, under my real identity, I posted a brief and restrained statement. I, Lillian, have recently been subjected to extensive malicious slander and online harassment by my former roommate, Ms. Crystal. The related content is entirely fabricated and has severely violated my right to reputation and personal dignity, causing significant harm to my physical and mental well-being. I have never suffered from the medical condition MS. Crystal has accused me of having. Relevant test reports can be produced at any time under the supervision of law enforcement or judicial authorities. I have retained XX law firm to handle this matter with full authority and will pursue legal action to hold her accountable and protect my legitimate rights and interests. Voices of support for me are beginning to emerge, faint but growing clearer. Some of my more level-headed classmates started reaching out privately to check on me, offering to vouch for my character. The class monitor went a step further by sharing my statement with the caption, having studied with Lillian for 3 years, I can attest to her integrity and modest lifestyle. The allegations are completely unfounded. Standing with Lillian and seeking justice, the storm was quietly shifting direction. Crystal's behavior grew increasingly unhinged. My phone started getting bombarded by unknown numbers from all over the country. When I answered, it was either long, heavy-breathing silences or her hoarse, hysterical cursing. On social media, she kept spamming my DMs. She even went and camped out at the entrance of the company where I used to intern, but she had no idea that I had vanished without a trace. By the time she received that positive test result, I had already calmly and swiftly completed all the procedures for leaving campus, citing better job opportunities back in my hometown, requiring an early return for internship and onboarding preparations as my reason. I didn't tell anyone my specific whereabouts, even to the class monitor, with whom I had a decent relationship. I only vaguely mentioned going back to my hometown to rest for a while. I've severed almost all ties with that city. I changed my phone number and either deactivated or set the highest privacy settings on my frequently used social media accounts. Right now, I'm sitting in my newly rented apartment in a quiet neighborhood in my hometown's provincial capital. Later, unable to find me, she took her frustration out on Fiona. I had already laid the fuse. A classic dog-eat-dog drama unfolded exactly as expected. According to witnesses, Fiona asked Crystal to meet, wanting to talk one last time and draw a clear line. But the conversation quickly spiraled out of control. The video was shaky from the start, and Fiona's shrill voice could be heard. That's enough. Crystal, keep your own dirt to yourself and don't drag me into it. Don't contact me again. Crystal exploded like a lit stick of dynamite. I'm dirty. Fiona, who are you to play the innocent saint? Who is the one competing with me over who'd slept with more men? Who said we should live it up while we can? Now you want to play the pure virgin. I'm telling you, no way. She grabbed the water glass from the table and flung it at Fiona, trying to distance yourself. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are. I've got plenty of evidence of your dirty little secrets saved on my phone. With water dripping down her face, Fiona completely lost her composure. She screamed and lunged forward to claw at her opponent. How dare you, you lunatic. You're the one with the STD trying to drag me down. I'll fight you to the death. The scene instantly descended into chaos. You're the slut who specializes in stealing other people's Boyfriends, you deserve to get sick. Why don't you just drop dead already? Does your mother know you're such a slut in public? Does your father know you're the town bicycle? Meanwhile, I was calmly scrolling through this video from my hometown 1,000 miles away. The time is ripe. I planted the seeds, but it was the long rotten soil of their own hearts that let them take root, sprout, and ultimately bloom into flowers of evil. I just helpfully added fuel to the fire. I accidentally posted their old videos and photos in the group chat. Things are spiraling out of control. I later contacted William to report the incident to the police. The reason was that I had been subjected to severe defamation, online harassment, and explicit threats of physical violence involving dangerous weapons. Given the widespread nature of the incident, its negative social impact, and the inclusion of personal threats, the police acted swiftly. Their first step was to summon Crystal. Reportedly, as the police were escorting her away, Crystal caused a scene in the dormitory, loudly insisting that I was the one who had ruined her life, which drew a crowd of onlookers. This time, the onlookers' gazes held less sympathy, replaced by scrutiny and disgust. At the police station, under the weight of my previously recorded videos and the officers' pressure, Crystal's psychological defenses completely crumbled. Though carefully worded, the police statement made the core facts clear. Crystal confessed to defaming Lillian and making personal threats, admitting the online rumors were fabricated. The case remains under further investigation. The moment the police released their statement, public opinion completely flipped. 9. Those who had been hurling the most vicious insults at me quickly deleted their posts and apologized, or just went silent and disappeared. The school also promptly issued a statement, strongly condemning Crystal's actions and initiating disciplinary proceedings according to school regulations. Crystal was utterly disgraced. Not only was she battling her illness, but she was also saddled with the indelible suspicion of libel and the scorn and contempt of the entire internet. The school placed her on temporary leave to undergo psychological intervention and treatment. Fiona didn't have HIV, but she did contract a sexually transmitted disease and was undergoing treatment. Meanwhile, I successfully passed the civil service exam, cleared the medical check, and returned to my hometown to contribute to my city's development. Story 2. Before the zombie virus outbreak, I was so weak that I couldn't even lift a thing or carry a load on my shoulders. After the apocalypse broke out, I could take down a little zombie with just one stick. If that green tea bitch threatens me, then we'll just die together. A week before the zombie outbreak, my wealthy boyfriend kicked me out of the villa. The reason was that he had slept with my green tea best friend. He threw me a check for 1 million yuan, then put his arm around my green tea best friend and swaggered away. As a result, I used that 1 million yuan to buy a second-hand supermarket, which became the strongest fortress in the apocalypse. I spent a whole day organizing, classifying, and cleaning it. Then I stocked up on some snacks that I like to eat, ready to start my laid-back life. Before falling in love with Adam, my biggest dream was to open a supermarket of my own, so that I wouldn't have to spend money on spicy strips in the future. I don't know what the previous owner of this supermarket was thinking, but he actually built an underground secret room. Its anti-theft level is top-notch. If he hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known such a place existed. The space is a full 20 square meters. There was a pile of messy things inside. I simply cleaned up the useless things, and then spent a lot of money on a comfortable and soft bed. I plan to live in this supermarket from now on, and it would even save me the money for renting a place. The only downside was that there were no windows, just a small skylight, but fortunately, the ventilation system was quite good, so it wouldn't be too stuffy. But I never expected that this would save my life in the future. Given this, I simply went all the way and installed a solar generator. In the evening, I simply cooked a bowl of instant noodles. Since the supermarket hadn't opened yet, I locked the door early. I was chasing a drama when a push notification suddenly popped up on my phone. Riots occurred in a certain square in City A. Those scarlet words immediately piqued my curiosity and I clicked in. There was only a video less than 30 seconds long in the news. I could vaguely make out that in the crowd, a man suddenly went crazy and pounced on a woman. The woman struggled a few times and then fell still, and the man was quickly subdued by the enthusiastic onlookers. But just in the last second of the video, I suddenly saw something. I played the video again at a slower speed and carefully examined it. I suddenly noticed that the woman who had been bitten to pieces and was covered in blood suddenly sat up. A strong sense of unease instantly enveloped me. City A was actually very far from where I was, but for some reason, I just felt very uneasy. Maybe I had watched too many horror movies on a normal day, so I paid a little extra attention, but I didn't dare to tell anyone my speculation. I was afraid they would think I was exaggerating. The next day, I found a master to come to the door and reinforce the original anti-theft door with an additional layer of bulletproof material. Even that small skylight was replaced with thick bulletproof glass, and it was also the kind that prevents peeking. Then I spent a lot of money to buy dozens of large barrels of water. Fortunately, this was a supermarket, so it was quite normal to bring in these things. Subsequently, I rushed to the flower and plant market and bought some fully grown orange trees, blueberries, and Strawberries. I also bought some vegetable seedlings. I gritted my teeth and took out a loan to buy 2 large fish tanks. In one, I raised dozens of fish that reproduced quickly. In the other, I raised hundreds of crabs. Even if things didn't turn out the way I thought, I could still sell these things later. After finishing all this, I locked the supermarket door tightly, for safety reasons. I even pasted a notice of closure and rental outside the supermarket. Then I nervously hid alone in the supermarket for 2 days, just when I was wondering if I had read too many novels and was just overthinking. A shrill scream suddenly came from the news that was being broadcast. In the next second, that beautiful female reporter was pounced on by a person covered in blood. There were people running for their lives everywhere on the street. As I expected, the zombie virus had really broken out. I secretly hid in the basement. After these few days of tidying up, this small basement had been transformed into a very cozy place by me. I specifically set aside half of the space for growing fruits and vegetables. There was also a fluorescent lamp installed above. It was brightly lit. I lay on the bed and turned on the surveillance camera outside the supermarket. I also saw the scene on the street. At this time, the neighborhood had fallen into chaos, and there were very few living people left. I saw a little girl being protected in her mother's arms and desperately running towards my supermarket, but she was still chased by 4 or 5 zombies. They bit her. The mother soon lost all signs of life, but 3 minutes later, she, with a blood-covered face, bit and killed her daughter in her arms. The little girl had tears all over her face, but she didn't struggle at all. I suddenly felt very sad. Maybe it was because I had no parents since I was a child, so seeing this scene touched me a bit. After humans turn into zombies, they will wander aimlessly on the street until they smell the breath of a living person, and then they will go crazy and attack again. And at this moment, there were no living people outside my supermarket. After a full 3 hours of silence, there was suddenly some movement in the property owner group on my phone. A woman asked if there were any survivors. People in the group responded to her one after another, but I didn't say anything. I just silently watched everyone discuss in the group, until a man suddenly mentioned me, to be precise, my supermarket. He asked if the owner of the newly opened supermarket downstairs was still there. Soon, the property management entity mentioned me. I still didn't say anything. I just stared at the messages in the group with my eyes. I knew that in the apocalypse, human nature was the most unreliable thing among zombies. The chat in the group soon speculated that I might have been killed. This was also the result I wanted to see. I knew that a few days after the apocalypse, there would be large scale water and power outages, and that would be the real disaster. The property owners in the group also seemed to think of this and started to set their sights on my supermarket. Someone said that I should have a lot of supplies here and suggested that everyone come to my supermarket to take refuge. I frowned. Although I thought they probably couldn't pry open my multiple anti-theft doors, I still paid extra attention. I watched the surveillance camera for a whole night. These zombies were very strange. Their activity frequency would decrease significantly at night. I suspected that these zombies had poor eyesight and bit people mainly by smell and hearing, so if someone really wanted to sneak into my supermarket, they should take action at night. In this way, I was actually safer during the day, so during this period, I almost adjusted my daily routine. I watched the surveillance camera at night and used the daytime to catch up on sleep. And once someone tried to break through my first anti-theft door, I had to prepare for the worst. I watched the surveillance camera for 3 consecutive nights, and finally someone took action. I saw 5 men carefully approaching my place in the dark. Despite it being summer, everyone was dressed very tightly. They had iron pots tied to their chests and backs. Although they were moving slowly, they soon reached the door of my supermarket. A man kept watch, and the leading man took out a crowbar and tried to pry open my anti-theft door. But soon he found that this door couldn't be opened just by brute force. Soon another man came out and took out a bunch of tools from his bag. I realized something was wrong. Obviously, one of these people knew how to pick locks. Fortunately, I had spent a lot of money on this door, so its structure was relatively complex. I watched the man whisper a few words to the others, and then his eyes suddenly became sharp as he looked over. It was as if he was looking at me through the surveillance camera in the dark. I broke out in a cold sweat all over my body. That man seemed to have studied my door lock thoroughly, but for some reason, he didn't unlock it immediately. Instead, he led them away. The others seemed a bit dissatisfied, but they obediently left. Fortunately, they didn't encounter any zombies on the way. After they left, I walked out of the secret room and then silently took out a bag of cement from the corner. I took a bucket from the shelf and mixed the cement and water in the right proportion. I didn't want to do this unless it was absolutely necessary, but now I had to seal the anti-theft door, so I summoned up my courage and opened the 2 innermost doors, and then applied the cement to the position of the door gap. I used up 3 whole bags of cement to seal the door tightly. I knew that once I did this, I wouldn't be able to go out for a short time, but it could also effectively prevent people outside from coming in. And when that group of people came again, it would completely expose the fact that I was still alive, too. Just as the sky was turning a little bit light the next day, the zombie horde attacked again. I turned on the surveillance camera and leisurely cooked myself a bowl of instant noodles. I even added an egg and a small handful of green vegetables. It was a balanced meal. At this time, the network hadn't disappeared yet, and the discussions about zombies on the internet were overwhelming. Of course, there were also many people like me who discovered something was wrong in advance and made preparations early. Some people even broadcast live the scenes of zombie attacks on the internet. There were even some people who were courting death and doing food live streams. I watched that little girl show off her figure in front of the camera while eating lobsters voraciously. I secretly cursed her for being stupid. Then I noticed that the background of the building behind her was near my residential area. If I could find this, of course others could too. I thought about it, registered an anonymous account, and reminded her. The message showed that it had been read but not replied to. Obviously, she had great confidence in her own anti-theft aura, but she underestimated human nature. Now that it was a matter of life and death, if she wanted to seek death, I couldn't stop her. Sure enough, on the third day, that little girl didn't go live again. I hope it was just that her phone was out of battery. But even a zombie wouldn't believe such words. A week after that group of people left, they came again, but now there were only 4 of the original 5 people left. I don't know what happened among them during this period. I had been staring at the surveillance camera, and it made me feel very nervous all the time. I took a fierce bite of the freshly fried drumstick in my hand, and then stared intently at the surveillance camera. Then I saw the person at the end of the line suddenly stop and look at the surveillance camera again. This time, the glance was very brief, but I knew that he might have discovered me, but it didn't matter anymore. When the leading man saw the cement below, he suddenly pounded the door hard. The noise was quite loud, and it scared the people around him into quickly stopping him. Obviously, they had already discovered that there was still someone inside. Maybe they were afraid of attracting zombies, so this group of people could only leave. I secretly let out a sigh of relief, but half an hour later, the property owner group exploded. The people who had lost their minds started scolding me. Those with a bit of reason started begging me. There was even a little boy who added me and desperately wanted to be my boyfriend. I couldn't help but take a look at the photo he sent. To be honest, he was quite handsome. A man said that his wife was pregnant and about to give birth, and he begged me to share some food with them. I knew that these days, they must have searched all the supermarkets and convenience stores near here. They probably didn't dare to go to places far away now that their food was all gone. My relatively large supermarket had become their only hope. I still didn't say anything, but I didn't leave the group either. I needed to stay in the group to eavesdrop on some information based on their discussions. What I didn't expect was that 5 days later, this group of people came again. This time, there were a full 10 of them. There was even a boy who looked like he wasn't even an adult, but the man who knew how to pick locks didn't come. I squinted my eyes, not knowing what they were going to do, but I soon found out. I had to say that there were really a lot of talented people in our residential area. They actually buried explosives in the weakest part of my wall. Obviously, these explosives were the result of what they had been tinkering with these days. The power might not be great, but the quantity was enough. It seemed that they were going to blow up the wall and then attract the zombies to bite me to death. This way, at night, the things in the supermarket could be taken by them at will. But this should also be their worst plan, because someone in the group had mentioned me again. Their bomb wouldn't explode until the next day, so they gave me one night to think about it. If I agreed to open the door, they could withdraw the bomb, but I knew that once I opened the door, this group of people wouldn't let me go either, so I decided to take a gamble. I moved all the food that was easy to store to the basement, especially the compressed biscuits and water. I moved as much as I could until my basement was filled to the brim. I pondered for a moment and originally wanted to put some rat poison in the remaining water, but thinking that someone in the group said that his wife was pregnant, I gave up. Finally, I hid an alarm in the most hidden position of the cash register. This was the worst plan. Once someone discovered my secret room, I would pull the alarm to attract the zombies, and then use the zombies to drive them away or kill them. 3. I took one last look at the fish tank that I bought with a large sum of money. There were already some fry in it. I fished out these fry and raised them in a basin. Then I stuffed all the most expensive food in my supermarket into my stomach, trying to eat as much as I could. Then I cooked all the crabs and put them in the secret room, ready to nibble on them at night. There was also a small toilet in my secret room, and now it was also filled to the brim. All kinds of daily necessities were stuffed in it. Looking at the still full supermarket, I let out a deep sigh and decided not to be greedy anymore. I honestly sneaked into the secret room, then I locked the entrance of the secret room, removed the ladder, and used a cabinet to firmly block the entrance. This cabinet was custom made by me, and its height just coincided with the ceiling. After finishing all this, I carefully stepped over the piles of mineral water and self-heating hot pots and squeezed into my small bed that could only accommodate one person at present. There were also piles of snacks on the bed now. If there were no zombies outside, this would simply be the dream life. I stared fixedly at the surveillance camera, then I heard a loud bang. The bomb outside exploded. I clearly saw that several pieces of the wall fell off and broken bricks rolled down, but this didn't have any impact at all. I mean, how could a few fireworks and firecrackers possibly blow up a wall? But soon I couldn't laugh anymore, because I clearly saw that there were actually several speakers hidden behind the bomb. As the music sounded, dozens of zombies came running over when they heard the sound. I finally understood their plan. Their bomb couldn't actually blow up my wall, so they planned to attract the zombies to directly crash into this place, and they succeeded, because more and more zombies came. I even saw a few familiar faces among them. They frantically crashed into the wall. But the quality of that speaker was surprisingly good, and they couldn't break it. No matter what, then my wall couldn't bear the weight and collapsed. Half an hour later, the zombie horde retreated. When night fell, as I expected, those people came again. This time, it wasn't just those men. There were even a lot of women and old people. Some even came out as a whole family, all for the purpose of getting more food. I saw them carefully climbing in through the hole, and then they frantically stuffed food into their arms. Some people even started eating on the spot. My few fish didn't escape either. In the face of such abundant supplies, this group of people started fighting, but there were also some people who remained rational and left quickly after getting enough, and there are always greedy people in this world. During the scuffle between two men, one of them was scratched on the thigh by a broken can on the ground. The smell of blood quickly filled the air. Then, there was a rustling sound not far away, but the people who were busy grabbing supplies didn't notice. Soon, several zombies surrounded them. This group of people started running for their lives frantically, but there was only that one exit in my not very big supermarket. The zombies kept pouring in through the hole, and the smell of blood quickly attracted more zombies. In the chaos, a girl was lifted up by her boyfriend and placed on the highest shelf. I saw her tightly covering her mouth, trying not to cry as soon. Her boyfriend was pounced on by a zombie. 5 minutes later, all the people here were bitten to death. Among the broken arms and legs, some people slowly struggled to get up. Their eyes were scarlet, and their faces were covered with ugly bloodshot lines, dense like cobwebs. When everything quieted down, the girl dared to whimper softly. She hid on the shelf and didn't dare to come down for a long time. To be fair, her boyfriend treated her quite well, at least better than that scumbag Adam. Not until the next night fell did the girl dare to carefully climb down. The sparse bloodstains on the ground looked even more terrifying in the dark, but this girl didn't cry anymore. She was extremely calm. To be honest, I admired her for this. I saw the girl go to the shelf and take some food. She didn't leave. Instead, she tore open the packaging and started eating directly. After having enough to eat and drink, the girl climbed out and picked up all the bricks on the ground. I watched her with great interest. Then I found that she took all the glue from the shelf and started using the glue to stick the bricks together, and then filled the hole in the wall. After barely patching up the wall, the girl pushed over the fish tank that I had placed on the ground. The fish tank was very large. She scooped out all the water in it with a basin before she could barely move it. After using the fish tank to block the hole, she smeared the remaining glue on the edge. Then she poured all the water back in. To be honest, this method could only barely block the zombies, but it couldn't block those people. They would definitely come back, because the food would run out sooner or later. I didn't know why the girl didn't leave, but as long as she didn't leave, I could only hide in the secret room. The next day, as soon as it dawned, a little light barely shone through the skylight of the supermarket. In the dim sunlight, the girl's eyes were extremely clear and calm. I shuddered for no reason, I don't know why, but she always gave me a very dangerous feeling, and this feeling was soon confirmed. For 1 month after the zombies surrounded the city, I was living quite comfortably in the underground secret room of the second-hand supermarket. This day, I was sitting with my legs crossed, eating potato chips that were about to expire, and watching the girl on the surveillance camera busily reinforcing the hole. Suddenly, she stopped what she was doing. Her bright eyes stared straight at me through the screen. I was taken aback. Had she discovered me? Sure enough, I saw her frown in confusion, and then she slowly walked over with a broom and smashed the surveillance camera hard. The screen in front of me instantly went black. I completely lost the surveillance of the supermarket. Listening to the sound of the girl's shoes stepping on the floor, making a pattering sound, I felt a sudden sense of panic in my heart. I even regretted not going up to slit her throat when she was sleeping, but it was too late to regret now. This girl was a ticking time bomb. Fortunately, the surveillance camera outside was still intact, and I could monitor the outside situation at any time. Soon, night fell and the zombie horde retreated again. This kind of situation continued for several days. As more and more people discovered the pattern that these zombies would only move during the day, more and more people came to search for food nearby. Although there were also people who accidentally attracted zombies, most people were safe. I knew that the situation should end soon, because the government had established a safe zone in the Northwest Desert. It was a place with few people, And there were few zombies. As soon as the zombie horde broke out, the military quickly took control of that place. I saw that many people had sneaked into the garage at night and drove away from this neighborhood with their families, but that girl didn't leave. She still lived in my supermarket. Sometimes she would knock on the floor, not knowing what she was looking for. I suspected that she had already discovered the existence of the secret room and even knew about my existence 3 days later. The girl finally found the entrance to my secret room. She tried to pry open the wooden board but failed. Every day after that, I could hear the harsh sound of a knife scratching against the metal at the entrance, and there was a knife placed by my bedside. Once she dared to come in, I would kill her immediately. On the third day of the girl's persistent attempt to pry open the floor, suddenly, the sound of a car engine came from outside. I was horrified to see through the surveillance camera that 4 big men got out of a van, and 2 of them had tattoos on their arms. What made me feel even more chilled was that they were actually carrying guns. The men quickly discovered the hole in the supermarket wall and easily removed the bricks that the girl had painstakingly pieced together. As for that fish tank, in the face of absolute power, it was simply worthless. After they went in, I had no idea what was going on inside. I could only vaguely hear some voices of conversation, but the sound insulation here was quite good, so I couldn't hear clearly what they were saying. Just when I was at a loss, the entrance to the secret room began to be pounded furiously. They seemed to have covered part of the sound with a towel. I could only hear a muffled thumping sound above, like a hammer hitting my heart little by little. Obviously, that girl had betrayed me. Without hesitation, I pressed the alarm that I had locked in the cash register safe. The sound was very loud, and I could hear it even in the basement. Then I saw through the outside surveillance camera that zombies began to come running when they heard the sound. The knocking sound above the secret room also stopped, and only the sound of flustered footsteps remained. To my surprise, they were smarter than I thought. I saw 2 men run to the car, and one of them was holding the safe with the alarm in it. Then the car ran over the approaching zombies, splashing a spray of blood and flesh. These 2 men actually chose to drive away to lure the zombies away. At this moment, I knew that I was finished. My mind began to race. About half an hour later, I heard the sound of a blunt object hitting the door above again. Soon, the sound of the car came again. It seemed that the 2 men had successfully shaken off the zombies and thrown away the safe with the alarm in it. With the addition of these 2 men, I heard the door of the secret room begin to creak. The wooden cabinet also began to shake slightly. The fear at this moment was even stronger than when the zombie outbreak first occurred. I forced myself to calm down and then stuffed all the heavy objects I could find into the cabinet, trying to increase its weight, but those people seemed determined to find me. I heard a man let out a soft exclamation, and then the sound of a chainsaw was heard. Fortunately, the people beside him stopped him in time, because this might attract the zombies soon. All of them got into the car, but for some reason, the car didn't start immediately. Soon, I knew the answer, because the sound of the chainsaw sounded again the next second. At the same time, that girl also got into their car. The car parked quietly on the side. I was horrified to find that the zombies were coming again. At this moment, I felt that these zombies were like monkeys being played with, but soon I couldn't laugh anymore, because the chainsaw had penetrated the wooden board of the cabinet through the gap they had pried open, and wood chips were falling down swishingly. My heart also gradually cooled down. I knew that I couldn't escape. 5. When they dragged me out, I only saw a lot of zombie corpses on the ground. The men were all covered in blood and looked a bit. The leading big man lifted my chin, looked at me left and right, and then stood up and indifferently ordered his subordinates, "Let's go." I knew that he didn't intend to kill me, but if I was left here, I definitely couldn't survive, so I could only bite the bullet and stand up, looking straight into the big man's eyes. "You have to take me with you." He seemed to be a bit interested, looking at me with a playful look in his eyes. "The safe zone you're going to now is 2,463 kilometers away from here. Even if you fill the car with all the supplies here, you definitely won't be able to last more than a week. You still need to refuel the car on the way. I'm familiar with the roads around here and can lead you out of the city at the fastest speed. Moreover, when you get to the safe zone, how will the 4 of you men live?" And I suddenly raised my hand and pointed at the girl beside me, saying in a clear voice, "I'm prettier than her." When I said this, all of them looked at me with a very strange look, but I straightened my back and let them look at me. This was true. That scumbag Adam fell in love with me because I was good looking. The leading man was silent for a while, and then he waved to the others and said, "Take her with us." A man opened his mouth and didn't seem willing, but he didn't say anything. I saw the girl beside me looking a bit stunned, then she almost ran and hugged the leg of one of the men, raising a pitiful face with tears in her eyes. "Andrew, what about me?" The man called Andrew was a thin man wearing glasses. He looked a bit hesitant and then said to the leading man, "Brother Chu, why don't we take Zara with us too? She's thin and doesn't eat much." And the idea just now was also proposed by her. The man called Brother Chu nodded and slightly raised his chin. take her. While they were talking, I had already helped carry several boxes of food to the car. I could even vaguely feel the sharp gaze of Brother Chu on me. I didn't know which words convinced him to keep me. After we loaded the car with a full load of food and daily necessities, we got into the van. Since many positions in the car were filled with things, there was no space left for me and that girl. The girl named Zara sat on Andrew's lap. I was held in the arms of a muscular man with a stronger build. The man called Brother Chu was in charge of driving. The remaining man sat in the passenger seat and was responsible for giving directions with a map. The car hadn't driven for long when I heard the girl's soft gasps beside me. I turned my head and saw that Andrew had already put his hand into Zara's clothes. I looked at the man holding me nervously. There were a few rare blushes on his dark face, but he didn't do anything. This made me feel a bit at ease, but I still remained highly nervous throughout the journey until we drove to a service area and took a short rest there. This was a service area on the highway, so there were very few people around. They patrolled around with their guns. After finding no zombies, while I was busy serving tea, water, massaging their legs and shoulders for these masters, that Andrew couldn't wait to hug Zara and rush into the restroom of the service area. After a while, Zara's faint moans came out. I pretended not to see anything and continued to serve them attentively, lighting a fire and cooking for them. The muscular man holding me seemed to be unable to stand it and wanted to come and help. I also persuaded him to stop. I knew that in this team, I had to show my value. Otherwise, like Zara, in normal times it would be okay, but when in danger, she would be the first one to be abandoned. Of course, the second one would be me. After preparing the food for them, I took a dagger and silently patrolled around. I replenished some missing supplies on the car and filled the car with gas. I also filled the empty gas cans on the car with a full load of gasoline, filling 2 large cans. After finishing all this, I found a still usable faucet and filled a small bucket with clean water. I carried it around and washed the arms and necks of the 3 brothers that were exposed outside. I could feel that the man who didn't agree to take me with him at first had changed his look at me. I didn't dare to wash my face. I just washed my hands and neck, then I took off my shoes and socks and washed my feet. At this time, I felt a burning gaze. When I looked back, it was that Andrew. He looked very proud. At this moment, his eyes were staring straight at my exposed feet. After washing, they were fair and delicate. I quickly stuffed my feet into my shoes, not even having time to put on my socks, and then ran away in a hurry. Andrew didn't chase after me, but the way he looked at me was very disgusting and blatant. When I got back to the car, they had all finished resting and were ready to set off. During the rest just now, I also figured out the identities of these people. They were all neighbors in the same residential area. The muscular man holding me was called Alex, and he was a policeman. The gun was also obtained by him. The leading brother Chu was called Adrian. Andrew was still Andrew. And the other man who didn't like to talk was called Arthur. As for that girl, her name was Zara, and she was a junior and senior schoolmate of Andrew's in university. Later, I heard from Alex that Andrew had chased after Zara a few years ago, but Zara didn't like him. Who would have thought? I secretly glanced at Zara and couldn't help but admire her a bit. She was really a capable person who knew how to adapt. At this time, I accidentally met Andrew's gaze and suddenly felt nauseous. In this team, Adrian was the most unpredictable, Alex was the most innocent, and Arthur was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Only Andrew was an idiot with dirty thoughts in his head. That night, we found a relatively quiet service area to rest, in order to prevent someone from running away with the supplies in the middle of the night and also to prevent any danger. We all squeezed into one room to rest, but in the middle of the night, someone crept up to me. I was woken up by being touched. When I woke up, I saw Andrew's glasses shining with a cold light. One hand was tightly covering my mouth, the other hand was clumsily unbuttoning my clothes. This pervert, after I reacted, I directly kicked him with all my strength. When I was in university, because of my interest, I joined the Taekwondo club. My strength was accurate and fierce. Sure enough, the next second, Andrew's pig-killing scream rang out in the night. The others were also awakened one after another. I took the opportunity to quickly get up and hide behind Alex. Then I pinched my thigh hard. The pain made me squeeze out a few tears. I hugged Alex's waist and kept crying, making him a bit at a loss. As a policeman, his sense of justice made him despise Andrew's behavior. I saw Adrian's cold gaze sweep over. I subconsciously shrank my head again. These people might have all been good young men before, but the apocalypse would only magnify people's bad qualities infinitely. After all, in the apocalypse, not to mention rape and plunder, even if someone slit another person's throat in public, no one would say anything. Therefore, after the incident was exposed, Andrew behaved extremely calmly. He was even extremely reasonable and straightforward. Adrian didn't say much either. He just gave him a punch and warned him to control his lower body and not cause trouble for them. I saw Andrew's face turn sinister all of a sudden. I suddenly felt a sense of unease in my heart, and my unease was soon confirmed. 5. Andrew ran away, taking Zara and a car full of supplies with him, and drove away without looking back. I had long known that Andrew couldn't be trusted, but I didn't expect him to be so unreliable. He took the opportunity when Adrian and the others got out of the car to search for supplies. He made an excuse that he needed to pee and then ran away directly with Zara. I was the first to discover it, but I only managed to grab one box of supplies from the car. When Adrian and the others rushed over, Andrew had already locked the car door. When Alex chased after him, he clung tightly to the car door with both hands, but was dragged for dozens of meters. There were bloodstains all over his arms from being rubbed by the coarse sand. Looking extremely embarrassed, I opened the box of supplies that I had snatched from the car, only to find that it contained half a box of toilet paper, and the other half was filled with sanitary pads. Under Adrian's look that was like looking at a fool, my face instantly turned red. Alex cursed Andrew. He was now very annoyed because Andrew had the best relationship with him on weekdays, and it was he who had helped to bring Andrew into the team and made Adrian agree to take him. But complaining was useless. At present, there were still 1,983 kilometers to the safe zone. Without a car, it was obviously impossible for us to reach there on foot. Fortunately, this time we stopped at a service area that wasn't too deserted. There were a lot of private cars in it, but at the same time, there were still a few zombies wandering around here. This was also the reason why Adrian and the others didn't dare to shoot to stop Andrew just now, in case they didn't stop him and attracted the zombies instead. They would really be wiped out. Fortunately, the number of zombies here wasn't large. Roughly estimated, there were only about a dozen, but at present, the most important thing was that we weren't sure if there were other zombies around and whether they would come over when they heard the sound. Moreover, the bullets in their guns added up to only 10 rounds left. If they couldn't shoot the zombies in the head with one shot, it would be a complete waste of bullets. At this time, Arthur, who had been silent all this time, suddenly stood up. He decided to be the one to attract those zombies alone. The rest of us would go to find a car and then pick him up. This decision was very dangerous. Once we didn't pick him up in time or someone had ulterior motives like Andrew on the way, Arthur was completely putting his life in our hands. I thought for a while and finally didn't say anything. Alex seemed to want to say something, but was held back by Adrian. Arthur ran a long way, until his figure shrank into a small dot. He suddenly pointed to the sky and fired a shot. The zombies all raised their heads when they heard the sound, and then their eyes turned scarlet as they chased in Arthur's direction. After they all chased over, the three of us quickly started to act. Logically speaking, I was just there to make up the numbers, because my relationship with these people wasn't deep. I also didn't know why they were still willing to take me with them. In fact, it would have been the best for me to be the one to attract the zombies just now, but it was me who unexpectedly found a car that could start first. 6. I glanced at Adrian, who was a few minutes away from me, and my eyes suddenly became determined. Then I resolutely opened the car door and sat in the driver's seat. As I started the car, I roughly looked at the direction in my mind, and then stepped on the accelerator hard. The car roared and shot out like an arrow, leaving the bow, kicking up a cloud of dust. In the rearview mirror, I could vaguely see Adrian's gradually cold eyes. When the car ran over the body of the first zombie, the wheels made a creaking sound that made my scalp tingle. I stepped on the accelerator to the bottom, but my heart was pounding wildly. A zombie rushed over, with its two eyeballs protruding and clinging tightly to the car window. I was startled, but I didn't let up on the accelerator. The zombie was quickly thrown out, and I finally reached Arthur's side. At this moment, he looked very miserable. A large piece of the clothes on his back was torn off, but fortunately, there were no wounds. While I stopped, two more zombies rushed up. Arthur shot them in the head with a single shot, and then quickly opened the car door and jumped in. I stepped on the accelerator again almost the moment he sat down, causing Arthur to almost be thrown out as he lost his balance. He gave me a slightly resentful look, but didn't say anything. Now wasn't the time to chat either, because the remaining 5 zombies had already chased after us. I couldn't go back to pick up Adrian and the others anymore. Now I had to lead these 5 zombies away with Arthur later. Arthur described me at that moment as if I had taken 2 pounds of marijuana. When I parked the car in front of Adrian and the others with a drift, Alex's mouth opened so wide that it could fit an egg. Then I proudly raised my eyebrows at the two of them and said, "Get in the car." The next second, Adrian opened the car door and threw me out of the driver's seat like lifting a little chicken. What an ungrateful bastard. But the reason I saved Arthur wasn't because I had a sudden burst of kindness or my conscience hadn't been completely lost. I simply knew that I couldn't reach the safe zone on my own, and Adrian and the others seemed to be pretty good people to rely on. At least Alex and Arthur were nice guys. After Alex filled the car with gas, he filled 2 more barrels of gas. This place must have been raided by someone before, so there weren't many supplies. They searched the whole house and only found a few hard-steamed buns and 2 packs of pickled mustard greens. This place wasn't suitable to stay for long, so we got on the road immediately after searching. Unexpectedly, things in this world were just so coincidental. It really was true that enemies always seemed to meet at the next service area. We met Andrew and Zara again, but their current situation didn't seem right, because there were three fierce-looking men surrounding them. It seemed that they had been robbed. Adrian and the others had nothing to lose, as we had no supplies, so we weren't afraid of being robbed. The three big men glared at Adrian and the others a bit fiercely, but in terms of numbers, we were about the same, so we managed to get along peacefully. We even chatted a bit off and on. As for Andrew, except that Alex was a bit angry at first, Adrian and the others completely ignored Andrew and Zara threw several flirtatious glances at Adrian and the others, but they were all ignored. It was me who saw it and threw a few flirtatious glances back at Zara, which made her very angry. The three big men took the initiative to strike up a conversation, seeing us eating dry steamed buns. They even gave each of us an expired ham sausage and half a bottle of mineral water. They wanted to team up with us and go to the safe zone together. Adrian raised his eyelids when he heard this and looked at Andrew with interest, then said that he didn't want to be with a despicable person. The intention of the big man was obvious to everyone. He wanted to use the supplies in his hand to make Adrian and the others work for him, and when there was danger in the future, Adrian and the others would have to be the first to go, and in the apocalypse, who would hand over their back to someone they didn't know at all. Adrian said this just to disgust Andrew. We didn't see eye to eye, and there was no more conversation after that, but there was a person in the team who gave me a vague sense of familiarity, yet I couldn't remember where I had seen him before. 7. We just took a short rest at this service area and then continued on our way, but there was a person in the group that had robbed Andrew who always gave me a very dangerous feeling. However, fortunately, we didn't have much interaction with them. At this time, our group was gradually approaching the Northwest Desert. I had my period once on the way, and it almost attracted the zombies. But fortunately, it ended without any major problems. Later, we found that the blood of the zombies could cover up the smell, so we began to hunt down the lone zombies and smear the blood on the car. This trick really worked, but later, when the water resources became scarce, we all smelled terrible, like beggars on the street. Adrian and the others even had thick beards. Come to think of it, they were already bearded when I first met them, so I didn't even know what kind of appearance was hidden under that thick beard. Now there were less than 300 kilometers to the safe zone, and our supplies finally ran out. This morning, Arthur had diarrhea and used up the last half roll of toilet paper. As a result, he had a look that said, "Stay away from me," all morning. Now we still had to drive for a whole day and night to reach the safe zone, and the closer we got to the safe zone, the more zombies there were, because the surrounding zombies would be attracted by the large-scale human activities. So if we wanted to get in, we had to break through the zombie horde. If we let a group of people who had been hungry for 2 days deal with the zombies, it was clearly like sending them to be the zombies' food. So the most urgent thing now was to find supplies as soon as possible. According to the map, the nearest place to us was City F, which was also the only big city near the safe zone. If we were lucky, we might even meet the personnel from the safe zone who came here to search, and then we could smoothly follow them into the safe zone. Of course, there was also a possibility of meeting other teams heading to the safe zone. It would be okay if the two sides got along peacefully. The most feared thing was that a conflict would break out. We waited until it was dark before daring to enter the city. As soon as we entered the city, we encountered an obstacle. Several zombies were wriggling their stiff bodies towards us. Fortunately, we had developed a good deal of tacit understanding along the way. With the cooperation of several of us, it was no problem to deal with 7 or 8 zombies. Even I could skillfully use a knife to accurately stab a zombie in the head. After dealing with these zombies, we skillfully smeared the zombie blood on ourselves. Arthur even removed a zombie's arm for self-defense. We entered the city very smoothly. The city was full of zombie corpses, with broken walls and ruins everywhere, and thick smoke rising. A few zombies were wandering on the street. They seemed a bit confused about our sudden intrusion, but at this time they were just mindless puppets. They couldn't judge whether we were the same kind. Of course, there were also some particularly reckless zombies. Once a zombie approached, Alex and the others would calmly twist their necks. What a group of savage humans. We swept through several convenience stores in a row, and only found 2 cans of stinky tofu that were about to expire. In the corner, Alex's face turned completely black when he saw the stinky tofu. I wasn't picky about food, but eating too much of this stuff was really salty. We put the stinky tofu in the car and continued to search. Finally, we found half a bag of bread and 2 bags of frozen dumplings in the refrigerator of a house. Adrian and the others sealed the doors and windows and drew the curtains. I tested the gas tank in the house and found that it could still be used. It was a pity that there was no water coming out of the faucet. We could only fry the dumplings in a pan. There were 48 dumplings to be divided among 4 people. I only dared to take 8 dumplings for myself. Alex looked at me and picked 2 dumplings from his own bowl and put them in mine. When I met his confused gaze, he just scratched his head embarrassedly and said that he couldn't eat so many. But the next second, Adrian picked the 2 dumplings from my bowl. Just right, I don't have enough. At that moment, I wanted to kill Adrian. 8. After our short rest, While it was still not dawn, we searched several more houses. Fortunately, we found 3 packs of spicy strips and a box of expired crispy noodles. I almost cried with joy when I saw the spicy strips. There was also half a bag of flour and 2 cans of cola, but we couldn't eat the flour directly, so we had to sacrifice the 2 cans of cola and pour them into the flour. We made 8 big pancakes on the spot. Adrian and the others also managed to gather a box of gasoline from the cars on the street. Just as we were almost done searching and ready to retreat, suddenly a piercing scream cut through the night sky. Adrian was stunned when he heard it and actually prepared to go and investigate. I knew that he wasn't the kind of person who meddled in other people's business, and in the apocalypse, it was better to avoid getting involved in extra matters, but I didn't have much say in the team. Arthur and the others didn't have any objections either. Moving together with us were also a large number of zombies. The number of them made my scalp tingle. Soon, we saw a group of people surrounded by the zombie horde. When I saw the man and woman protected in the middle clearly, even with my composure, I couldn't help but swear. Question: when you encounter your ex-boyfriend and your green tea best friend surrounded by zombies, should you laugh first or clap first? I'm waiting online. It's urgent. I really didn't expect to meet Adam and Maya in such a situation. If I had known, I would have saved a pack of melon seeds from between my teeth to watch the show. It seemed that Alex noticed my abnormality. He asked me with great interest, "Do you know them?" I knew them more than just knowing them. I nodded excitedly and was just about to tell him the stories between me and those 2 people when Adrian interrupted our conversation. Get ready. What? Get ready for what? I looked at Adrian's face covered by his beard and suddenly had a rather cheesy thought in my mind. Then I met Adrian's extremely determined eyes. Save them. Adrian, are you out of your mind? I looked at him coldly. I didn't expect that there was such a saintly person like Adrian in our team. You can go and seek death if you want. I won't stop you, but we won't accompany you to die for someone we don't know, unless you can give me a reason why we have to go. Yeah, Brother Chu, even if you want to let us accompany you to die, at least let us die knowing why. Right, Arthur said in a deep voice. Alex also looked at him steadily and quietly blocked his way. While we were talking, the zombies had already surrounded Adam and the others. Adrian lowered his head and looked at me, saying in a faint voice, "What have you noticed?" I frowned and looked carefully in Adam's direction again. He and Maya were in the middle position, protected by a group of people. It was reasonable to say that in the apocalypse, this group of people had no reason to protect them, unless there was something on the 2 of them that they had to protect, and this was likely to be related to their lives. Could be. I looked at Adrian in surprise and disbelief. He shook his head and said that he wasn't sure either. If you want to know the answer, the only way is to save the 2 of them first. I nodded and expressed my agreement. It was a bit risky, but it wasn't a big problem. Arthur should also have realized something and stopped speaking. Only Alex, scratching his head, wanted to ask something, but finally didn't open his mouth. He had unconditional trust in the few of us, the group of people protecting Adam had already started fighting with the zombies. I saw Maya leaning weakly on Adam with a delicate look. It was really annoying. I still had to save these 2 people. Although I was extremely dissatisfied in my heart, I still took action quickly. Arthur was responsible for driving the car to pick us up. We were responsible for rescuing the 2 of them from the rear. When we arrived, the group of people protecting Adam had almost all been killed, with these people fighting in the front. Rescuing Adam and the others was a bit smoother than we expected. When we were retreating, I saw Maya clinging tightly to Alex's arm. In her opinion, the big and strong Alex should be more secure. The weak Adam could only follow us alone, but I could feel his gaze falling on me from time to time. I was dealing with the zombies that came running when I heard the sound and also keeping an eye on the 2 of them at the same time. Just then, a zombie rushed towards Maya. She let out a scream and actually pushed Alex out heavily. Alex lost his balance due to the sudden push and could only use his arm to block the zombie's attack. Even though I quickly rushed over to deal with that zombie, Alex's arm was still bitten with a bloody wound. My heart instantly turned cold. Alex's face also lost its color. He looked at me in surprise, and the culprit, Maya, had already hidden behind Adam. The incident just now happened too quickly. If I hadn't been paying attention to Maya all the time, I wouldn't have seen her actions, but now wasn't the time to blame her. I quickly cut off the piece of flesh on Alex's arm that had been bitten. This could barely prevent the spread of the zombie virus. Then I protected Alex behind me and covered their retreat. Adrian also came to my side at this time. Maya's scream attracted a lot of zombies. It was a bit difficult for me and Adrian to deal with them. Several times we almost got scratched by the zombies. Fortunately, at this time, the sound of the car engine finally came. Arthur had arrived in time, but just then, the zombies in the city, for some unknown reason, rushed towards us like crazy. Just then, Alex pulled me and Adrian behind him. He picked up an abandoned iron rod lying on the roadside and rushed towards the zombie horde with a shout. The last word Alex said to us was, "Go." Adrian was silent for a moment, then pulled me and ran. I looked back and saw Alex gradually being swallowed up by the zombies, the big boy who would blush When he smiled was gone just like that, and we finally managed to escape into the car 9. The car accelerated and drove for more than an hour before stopping in an open field. I looked coldly at Maya, who was cowering in Adam's arms, and then roughly pulled her out of the car. "What are you doing? You're crazy," Maya shrieked hysterically without any scruples. I directly slapped her across the face. "Shut up." I ripped off the mask on my face. When Maya saw my face clearly, a look of surprise and uncertainty appeared on her face. "Cleo, it seemed that my good best friend hadn't forgotten me. Maya and I were in the same high school, and then we went to the same university. Because of our old classmate relationship, I had always been very nice to Maya. She was beautiful and delicate, and I had always been kind enough to help her fend off those annoying suitors. Later I found out that all those so-called annoying suitors were actually people she had secretly flirted with. Maya, long time no see." I took out the short knife that I had used to deal with the zombies just now. The blade was already dark red from the blood. "Cleo, what are you going to do?" Maya was obviously nervous. "You owe me a life, and you have to pay it back, right?" "Cleo," Adam walked forward with a troubled expression. I looked at him coldly. "Don't call me that. It's disgusting." Adam opened his mouth but didn't say anything. He just silently stood in front of Maya. TSK. This apocalyptic love was really touching. Adrian and the others should have seen the grudge between me and Adam and the others, so they didn't interfere, but I knew that I couldn't kill Maya now, but it was necessary to scare her a little. "Arthur, pull this annoying person away from me." Arthur was also very angry at this time. Alex's death had hit him hard. He silently took Adam away and even had the foresight to cover his mouth. Maya looked at me and suddenly calmed down. There was even a sneer on her lips. "Cleo, you can't touch me. Without me and Adam, you won't be able to enter the safe zone." Sure enough, I was shocked in my heart, but I still frowned and deliberately pretended to be. "Who are you trying to bluff? I know exactly how much you're worth. As for Adam, what does he have besides a little money?" Maya looked at me with a look of disdain. "The safe zone is already full now. It's impossible to accept any more survivors. Even so, what ability do you have to get in? Because Adam has been bitten by a zombie." When she said this, not only me, but even the always calm Adrian showed a look of surprise. Arthur directly opened Adam's clothes, and sure enough, he found a ferocious bite mark on his arm. There were black lines all around it, looking extremely terrifying. Since Adam hadn't turned into a zombie after being bitten, it meant that there was already an antibody in his body, and taking him with us was equivalent to having a human-shaped pass, because the antibody meant the possibility of cracking the zombie virus. No wonder that group of people had desperately protected these two. However, I looked at Maya coldly. "What does Adam having an antibody have to do with you?" Maya raised her head at this, her eyes filled with a taunting smile. Then she gently placed her hand on her belly. "What do you think?" she said, looking at me provocatively. I didn't expect that in this apocalypse they still had the energy to conceive a child, but I really couldn't touch her now. After all, the little life in her belly was innocent. Even Arthur gently shook his head at me. My eyes suddenly felt a bit sore. A sense of powerlessness welled up in my heart. I suddenly remembered that a long time ago, we had encountered an attack from a group of people. There was a very thin boy in that team, with a face, just having come of age. At first, we didn't take him seriously and didn't kill him, but he secretly led the zombies over at night, almost causing our entire group to be wiped out. Later, when I wanted to kill him, Alex stopped me. I didn't understand why at first. Alex told me, "Cleo, even in the apocalypse, don't let yourself fall into the darkness." I still remember when he said these words. The light shone on him. Alex was surrounded by a warm golden light all over Alex. He was really a very, very good person, and he was the first ray of light I met in the apocalypse. But now, my light was gone. How could I let Maya go? 10. We were now less than 30 kilometers away from the safe zone. From a long distance away, I could hear the zombies howling all night long. There was always a proud smile on Maya's face. Adam tried to talk to me several times, but I didn't even look at him. 3 hours later, we had reached the vicinity of the safe zone. There were already a lot of survivors who had come from various places gathered here. From what they said, we learned some news. It turned out that the real obstacle for them wasn't the zombies outside, but the people in the safe zone. They had attacked the gate of the safe zone several times, but the people inside refused to open the door no matter what. After such 2 attempts, they suffered heavy casualties, so they didn't dare to break into the safe zone again. But so many people couldn't just wait to die outside like this. However, at present, these survivors couldn't really trust each other completely, so no one took the initiative to break the silence. And they all looked at the people in other teams warily, but everyone couldn't keep like this forever. There would always be someone who would be the first to break the deadlock, but I never expected that this person would be Maya. Maya stepped forward gracefully, cleared her throat, and said, "Everyone." All of a sudden, everyone's eyes were drawn to her. "At present, we can definitely make a deal with the people in the safe zone, because we have an absolute bargaining chip. There is already a person with an antibody in our team." When she said this, I secretly cursed her for being stupid, but I Didn't stop Maya. Instead, I watched coldly as she continued, "As long as the people in the safe zone know this news, they will definitely let us in." She spoke with great confidence. There were some people around who were tempted, but still, no one took the initiative to speak. Maya wasn't embarrassed either. She continued to speak on her own. "Now someone needs to deliver this message, so, I suggest." Maya paused and her eyes fell on me. "Cleo, you won't be unwilling, right?" I laughed coldly. "Maya, you say there is an antibody, but who knows if you're lying? Why would I lie? Besides, you all have seen, we saved you out of kindness, but you turned around and pushed me out to die. In the apocalypse, those who survived were all shrewd people. Everyone understood Maya's little scheme, so no one had paid attention to her just now. Since you say there is an antibody, you surely won't be afraid of being bitten. In that case, we might as well just throw you out to deliver the message." "Right, no," Maya shouted shrilly, "the one with the antibody isn't me." "Oh." I looked at her with a half-smile. Sure enough, she pulled Adam out of the team and rolled up his sleeve. The bite mark on his arm was ferocious and terrifying. Now the people around believed it, and there were whispers in the crowd. "It seems that you have a close relationship, everyone. We obviously can't hand over the antibodies so easily. Why don't I escort this lady to the safe zone to report the news?" The people didn't object to this. After all, they didn't have to go and risk their lives. Only Adrian opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say it in the end. I gave him a cold look and didn't say anything more. It was Maya who flatly refused and insisted on staying here, but how could I give her a chance to refuse? After all, we still had a big score to settle, because it was related to their own lives. Maya was very quiet during this journey. I drove the car and didn't even spare her a single glance. The sound of the car quickly attracted the zombie horde. They chased after us in a rush. I stepped on the accelerator hard. The wheels ran over the heads of several zombies. I seemed to be able to hear the sound of their brains bursting. At this time, a zombie suddenly grabbed onto the car window. Maya was so frightened that she let out a scream. I directly stabbed a knife into her thigh. "If you don't want to die, shut your mouth." Maya glared at me resentfully and finally stopped screaming. Blood kept gushing out from the wound on her leg. The smell of blood quickly attracted more zombies. Maya looked at me in surprise and disbelief. "Cleo, you did this on purpose, didn't you?" She covered the wound tightly. I showed her a big smile with my white teeth. "Don't worry, you still owe me a life. I won't let you die so easily." The smell of blood attracted the large zombie horde, and they moved further and further away from the safe zone. At the same time, I saw black SUV rushing towards the safe zone at high speed. This was exactly the plan that Adrian and I had come up with. The reason I brought Maya was to lead the zombies away from them. Maya seemed to have figured this out as well. She shrieked and rushed over to grab the steering wheel. I directly slashed a knife across her arm. Warm blood splashed all over me. In the apocalypse, my world had long been plunged into darkness. When I saw that black SUV successfully drive into the safe zone, my car finally ran out of fuel. The zombies quickly swarmed around the car. The car window shattered with a crash. Maya deserved to die, but the child in her belly was innocent, so let me pay for this little guy's life. I felt sharp teeth bite into my neck. It hurt a little bit, but soon I lost consciousness. I should be dead, right? When I regained consciousness again, I saw Adrian's rough face. He was bearded and looked extremely ugly. But why was I still alive? And what about Maya? When I woke up, Adrian quickly grabbed my hand. I saw that his eyes were red. "What's going on?" "They didn't extract the antibody from Adam's blood. The reason he wasn't infected was that he received a transfusion of someone else's blood in a car accident. That person is the real carrier of the antibody." I remembered that when I was in a relationship with Adam before, he had a car accident and needed an emergency blood transfusion. Without hesitation, I gave him 400 milliliters of my blood. In the end, it turned out that I was the unlucky one with the antibody. Looking at the doctors in white coats walking towards me with excited faces, I knew that I was going to suffer a lot in the future. I had struggled in the darkness, but in the end, I became the light that saved the world. The world was really strange. Story 2 believes that a zombie outbreak will occur in a month. Both my parents and my brother and his wife are completely convinced of this. They sold all their assets and used all their savings to build a safe house. Money will become the most useless thing when we no longer have our lives. They argued, "You should quickly sell your house and car too, exchange them for money to stock up on supplies, and move in with us." They urged me. I was skeptical and found many flaws in my nephew's apocalyptic claims. After unsuccessfully trying to persuade my parents and brother multiple times, I overheard a conversation between my sister-in-law and my mother. "Do we really have to let Scarlett move back in? If she comes, she'll take up another room." My mother firmly assured her, "If she doesn't move in, let Scarlett give us the money, and when the zombie outbreak happens, we'll just kick her out. After the zombies are gone, we'll burn some paper money for her as a tribute. That should be enough to honor her." I couldn't help but smile and turned to introduce them to an online lending platform. During work, I received a secretive call from my mom, urging me to take leave and come home immediately. I rushed home to find my brother and sister-in-law off work and my nephew Aiden also at home, not attending school. My parents sat on the sofa, showing a mix of nervousness and excitement upon my arrival. Before I could even sit down, there was a knock on the door. It was Oscar, the real estate agent from downstairs. My mother warmly welcomed Oscar into the house and started showing him around. Oscar, puzzled, asked, "Auntie, are you sure you want to sell the house? You bought it less than half a year ago." "Sell it. We need to sell it quickly. Drop the price by 300,000. Or even 500,000 if necessary, but it must be sold within half a month," my father decisively stated. Oscar glanced at me, knowing that I had bought the house through him 6 months ago and that while my parents lived there, I was the owner. He turned to me, seeking confirmation. "If you discount it by 300,000, our agency can take it off your hands in 10 days, but are you sure you want to sell? It's a shame since it's just been renovated." Hearing this, my parents eagerly agreed. Normally, they would complain about overpaying even 50 cents for eggs, but today they didn't blink an eye at losing 300,000 on the house, which was highly unusual. "Why are you selling the house, Dad? It's just been renovated. Why sell it?" I interrupted their conversation. "It's our house, and it's none of your business if we want to sell it," my dad replied, clearly annoyed by my interruption. "But the house is in my name. I paid for it. How is it none of my business?" my sister-in-law sarcastically chimed in. "Didn't you say this house was a gift to honor your parents?" Little sister-in-law talks nicely, but she doesn't let her parents have a say. If little sister-in-law is unhappy, she can kick out mom and dad anytime. Hearing this, I retorted unhappily, "If you're so filial, why don't you buy a house for mom and dad? Why are you living in the house I bought for them?" My brother yelled at me, "Show some respect to your sister-in-law. She doesn't have to put up with you." My dad, even more angered by our quarrel, pointed at me and said, "What's yours? It's all our family's, and if I say we're selling the house, we must sell it. Oscar, go get the contract from the store. We're signing today." Oscar, realizing the family discord and that I was unaware of the decision to sell, tried to mediate. "Uncle, Auntie, it's too late today. Please discuss this properly with Scarlett. If you decide to sell, just let me know, and I can come over anytime. I have another client to see today, so I'll be going now. Call me if you need anything." With that, he pushed the door open and left before my dad could respond. "A month from now, there will be a zombie outbreak. The entire city will be paralyzed. With no water, electricity, or gas, our family was trapped at home, afraid to go out. Eventually, after we ran out of supplies, my brother and sister-in-law were forced to go out and look for more. But they never returned. Later, while my father was out looking for them, my nephew witnessed him being killed by zombies. My mother was killed by other surviving neighbors, who then dismembered her body for food. Finally, my nephew sneaked out of the house. During his search for food, he encountered a horde of zombies and met his demise. My mother couldn't help but tear up as she spoke. "My poor grandson, your grandparents failed to protect you." With a solemn face, my nephew told everyone, after the zombie outbreak, "The most terrifying thing isn't the zombies, it's the humans." His words made my mother cry again. Wiping her tears, she said, "It's because of this that your father and I are planning to sell this house. We can sell it for 3 million. Your father and I have 500,000, and your brother and sister-in-law have 300,000. You should have over 1 million on hand. Let's all contribute and raise 5 million together to build a doomsday-safe house." My brother impatiently said, "Mom, why discuss it with her? The house is yours and Dad's to do as you please." I ignored my brother and turned to my mother. "Mom, we haven't owned this house for long, and you and Dad really like it. Selling it now doesn't seem wise." Hearing this, my brother disdainfully said, "When the apocalypse really hits, money will be the most useless thing. All those years of education, yet so little insight." I couldn't help but laugh at his comment. Money may indeed be useless in the apocalypse, so why don't you sell your house? It's in a school district and would probably sell even better. That comment made my brother's face turn red. "My wife and I have grown attached to our house. Besides, after the apocalypse is over, your nephew will still need it for school." It was clear to me that they were treating me like a fool, so for building a safe house costing 5 million, I should contribute 2 million, while mom and dad give 500,000, and your family of 3 only gives 300,000. Brother, weren't you planning to buy a Mercedes G-Class? That's 1 million right there. Why not use that money instead? After all, cars won't be much use in the apocalypse. You can't run over zombies with them." As my brother and I argued, my mother gave him a knowing look, and he turned away, muttering about not having any money. Sitting beside me, my mother started crying again. I couldn't bear to see her like this and worried what if my nephew was telling the truth. Trying to calm myself, I gently asked my nephew, "Tenny, this is a serious matter. Do you have any proof that you've really come back from the future?" He glanced at me, a flicker of panic in his eyes, and his hand unconsciously touched his nose. As a psychologist, years of experience told me that my nephew was lying. I patiently continued to press him. "Think about it. Is there anything that happened before the zombie outbreak, or could this be a dream? Zombie novels have been popular lately. Could you have confused a plot with reality?" Under my questioning, my nephew burst into tears, crying out that he couldn't Remember seeing him cry. My sister-in-law hugged him tightly. Displeased, Scarlett, did you become a psychologist only to develop a psychological disorder? He's just a kid. Do you really think he could lie to you? People just don't appreciate good intentions. As my nephew cried, my mother also spoke in a reproachful tone. Debao is still a child. He couldn't remember anything from that situation, but you know what kind of child your nephew is. Debao never lies, of course. I knew my nephew well, raised in a coddled environment by doting parents. I was the undisputed little tyrant of the house. At school, I was known for bullying classmates and being a habitual liar, but my parents never acknowledged my wrongdoings. Each time teachers approached them, they would fiercely argue, causing the teachers to dread dealing with me. I suggested to my mom and brother's wife, you should really ask Tanny about the details of this apocalypse he talks about. After all, apocalyptic stories are popular now, and it's possible he's just influenced by them. And fantasizing. Hearing this, my brother, who was pretending to ignore the conversation, pointed at me angrily and shouted, "You heartless girl, our parents still care about you, thinking we'd all be together in an apocalypse, and yet you don't believe your own nephew. You deserve to be eaten by zombies like in your past life." It became clear that the whole family believed fervently in my nephew's apocalyptic tales. No matter what I said, they wouldn't listen. Without another word, I grabbed my bag and left the house that night. The more I thought about my nephew's behavior, the more convinced I became that he was lying. I remembered installing cameras in each room when the house was renovated, considering my elderly parents' safety, deciding to observe my nephew through the surveillance footage. I pulled up the video feeds on my computer. My nephew had already gone to bed, but I overheard a chilling conversation between my parents and my brother and his wife. My brother asked, "What if the apocalypse never happens?" My dad replied, "If it doesn't happen, no harm done. We could use this as a chance to make that ungrateful girl sell the house. Even if the apocalypse doesn't come, we'll have the money." My mom complained, "Scarlett really is an ingrate. She wouldn't even put the house in our names, insisting on keeping it in hers." My sister-in-law rolled her eyes and added, "That's just her guarding against us. Afraid that you'd leave the house to me and Caleb. Keeping secrets from her own family. She really is a thankless wolf. And if the apocalypse does happen, are we really going to let Scarlett come back and take up a room?" My dad reassured her firmly, "We're just tricking her into giving us the money. When the zombies come, we'll just kick her out. At least she would have contributed to the family. After the apocalypse, we'll have Tanny burn some paper for her. That should be enough." Tears streamed down my face as I listened. I knew my brother and his wife were selfish, but I never imagined my own parents would see me as so expendable. The family I wholeheartedly cared for was plotting against me. From now on, I wouldn't let anyone use familial bonds to trap me. If there were another life, I'd rather be an orphan than have a family like this. I contacted my agent Oscar and a hacker friend that night, arranging my affairs before finally going to bed, eagerly awaiting the drama that would unfold the next day. Early the next morning, I was sitting in my parents' living room. My brother and his wife ignored me, and my nephew rolled his eyes at me. My parents' first question was whether I had decided to sell the house. With red, swollen eyes, I croaked, "Dad, Mom, what Tenny said must be true. I spoke to Jocelyn last night, and she warned me to keep this a secret." Jocelyn, a childhood friend, now worked in a national security department and was usually very reliable. As we spoke, my brother, busy with his phone, suddenly exclaimed, "Damn, there's a video of zombies abroad. I'll send it to you." But as he spoke, the video was taken down. I urged my brother to contact the video's poster to find out what was going on. He discovered the poster's IP was foreign. Just after he messaged them, their account vanished. Now, my parents and my brother and his wife were utterly convinced about the zombie crisis, standing confidently before me. My nephew said smugly, "Auntie, you were wrong. Aren't you going to buy me a toy too?" Apologize. Tearfully, I agreed to buy him one later, and only then did he leave satisfied. My dad also spoke commandingly, "Now you see your nephew was right, don't you? Quick, contact Oscar and get this house sold fast," my dad urged. Upon hearing my dad's words, I burst into tears. The reason I refused to discuss selling the house yesterday is that I've already mortgaged it, and I don't actually own it anymore, I confessed. I had a boyfriend before, and we were about to meet each other's parents, but it turned out to be a scam. Hearing this, my mom raised her voice and demanded, "What are you saying? You were scammed." I put all my acting skills to use today, crying so hard I could barely catch my breath. Yes, I was cheated out of over $4 million, and now this house, along with another in my name, are both mortgaged with the bank. My father, furious, clutched his chest and cursed me for my foolishness. Just then, Oscar arrived. He looked at me apologetically and said, "Scarlett, I've spoken to the bank, and it's certain you can't sell this house. It's a good outcome if it just covers your bank debt." My mom panicked immediately, pulling at my dad, asking what to do. "Let's sell your brother and sister-in-law's apartment then. It's in a good school district and should fetch a good price," I suggested. Oscar picked up on my suggestion and said, "I have a client interested in Caleb's school district apartment. If you decide to sell, we could sign the contract today, and you'd have the money in your account within a week. What do you mean? Why should we sell our house? It's always my family that ends up being targeted, my sister-in-law yelled, her voice strained with anger. I quietly explained, in the future, money and houses will be the least of our concerns. Being alive is what matters most. My sister-in-law was about to retort when my brother pulled her into another room. After a while, they came out, and she reluctantly agreed to sell the house. Oscar happily went to prepare the contract, leaving us looking at each other in silence. After a long pause, my brother spoke up. This house can go for $2 million, and I have another $500,000. With the $50,000 you and Mom have, it's still not enough to prepare properly. My dad looked at me and asked, how much money do you have now? I only have $100,000, I replied weakly. Just as my dad was about to raise his hand to slap me, I quickly continued, Dad, don't be angry, I have a plan. We can all apply for online loans. There are so many platforms, we can try each one. We could raise not just $5 million, but even $10 million if needed. After all, if it's the end of the world, we wouldn't need to pay it back. Who knows if these people will even be alive after it's all over? My parents and my brother and sister-in-law fell silent for a moment. In a soft voice, my mom asked, can we really do what Scarlett suggested? Sure. It's practically the end of the world anyway. What's there to lose? Staying alive is what's most important, my brother declared, slapping his thigh in agreement. I listed all the online loan platforms I had found the night before and had them download each one. It took them an hour to get them all. Then, my sister-in-law suddenly said, Scarlett, you go first, we'll follow your lead. I looked embarrassed and replied, because I've already taken out several million in mortgage loans from the bank. I can't borrow from online platforms. I tried to demonstrate to them, going through the process on each platform, but at the final step, each one indicated that my credit was not eligible. My sister-in-law scolded me, you're really useless, always acting like you're so successful, but the moment there's trouble, your true colors show. This is what happens when a woman doesn't get married at her age, easily scammed. You used to hoard your money, refusing to spend it on us, and now you've ended up with nothing. I bowed my head, ignoring her sarcastic comments, pretending I hadn't heard. Dad, Mom, my brother and his wife managed to borrow $10 million from an online lending platform in just one afternoon. I pretended to be concerned and asked, do we really need that much money? Anyway, we don't have to pay it back, so we might as well borrow as much as we can. My mom said nonchalantly, not even looking up from her reading glasses, greed can lead to disastrous results. They'll have their comeuppance eventually. At that moment, Oscar arrived with the contract and quickly finalized the sale of the house. Seeing that everything was settled, I also grabbed my bag, ready to leave. Mom and Dad, I'm going back home to pack some things, and then we can move together, I said. My brother scoffed in response, then my mom looked up, forced a smile, and said, Scarlett, transfer that 100,000 yuan you have to Mom. It's your contribution too. Also, take stock of any household and food items you have and bring them over, suppressing the bitterness in my heart. It seems that if there really were an apocalypse, it wouldn't leave any escape routes for me. I returned to my own home, comfortably lying on the big bed, and pulled up the surveillance feed of my parents' house. They were still immersed in the excitement of the impending apocalypse, discussing the supplies they needed to buy. They were following a shopping list inspired by apocalyptic novels, and their tasks were clearly divided. My brother was responsible for renting an apartment the next day. He was supposed to find a secluded unit on the top floor of a new complex, ideally renting out both apartments served by a single elevator if possible. After securing the apartment, he planned to hire a renovation team to refit it with bulletproof glass, high-security doors, soundproofing materials in the walls, and solar panels on the roof. My father was tasked with buying weapons and fitness equipment, while my mother was in charge of purchasing household and medical supplies. My sister-in-law would handle food and entertainment products. The family had everything neatly planned out. While they discussed what to buy, they occasionally criticized me for being useless. My father, frustrated, said, that useless girl might as well die in a zombie's mouth, otherwise she'll just drag us down. During their discussion, there was a knock at the door. It turned out to be a delivery they had ordered, and the meal boxes and the delivery person's uniform were from the most expensive Japanese restaurant in town. The food, including lobster, abalone, king crab, and salmon, was laid out on the table by the server, who also brought out a bottle of red wine and a bottle of mitai. Just this meal alone cost over 20,000, and my brother paid without blinking an eye. My parents were obviously shocked by the extravagance. They were used to living frugally and could never imagine spending so much on a single meal. My brother, with a grand gesture, told them, it's the end of the world anyway, we have fewer good days ahead, so let's splurge while we can. Inspired by my brother, my father said, open the mitai. I've never dreamt mitai or eaten king crab in my life. At least we can say we've lived well. My nephew joyfully ran around the house with a king crab leg before settling down to eat it. The family feasted noisily, treating it as a pre-apocalyptic celebration. Watching the greedy scene through the surveillance feed, I coldly shut my laptop with 20 days left Until the zombie outbreak mentioned by my nephew, the transfer of my brother and sister-in-law's house was completed, and the money was transferred to their account. Previously, my parents often called me to arrange for me to buy supplies, but I always found excuses to avoid it, asking them to let me know once the house was ready so I could move in directly 10 days before the supposed outbreak. Their safe house was finally ready. From the surveillance, I learned that they had paid the workers double the market wage to finish the job quickly. They began moving their purchased supplies to the safe house, expecting to complete the transfer within a week. 3 days before the outbreak, the whole family moved into the safe house. I frantically called my parents and my brother and sister-in-law, and after a long wait, my mother finally answered, "Mom, please send me the address, I'll come to you." My mother looked evasive and sought help with her eyes, and then my brother snatched the phone, boasting triumphantly, "Aren't you the one who always did well in school, made some money and forgot your own name, looking down on your brother? Huh, when I asked you to buy a house, you reluctantly gave 300,000. When I asked you to buy a car, you scrimped and saved to give 100,000. Are you kidding me? Let me tell you, Scarlett, I'm not going to look after you. Just wait to feed the zombies," he said, and then he hung up. When I tried calling back, I found out he had blocked my number. Then I received a message from my mother on WeChat. "Scarlett, don't worry. If you survive, we'll reunite after the apocalypse. Don't bother us anymore. Your brother and sister-in-law are already upset." When I tried to send another message on WeChat, it showed that I was blocked on WeChat. I tried calling and messaging each of them, only to find out that I had been blocked by everyone. Even though I had already realized what kind of people their family was, I still felt a bit sad at that moment. To me, they were once a family I deeply loved. But to them, I was always the one who could be abandoned. After confirming that my parents would not be coming out of the safe house, I invited Oscar over to my place. I needed to sell both my parents' house and my own as soon as possible. After explaining my family situation to Oscar, he enthusiastically agreed to play along and convinced my parents that I was indeed out of money and that the houses could not be sold. When Oscar arrived, he directly asked, "Scarlett, you're selling both these houses?" "Yes. Once they realize that the apocalypse isn't coming, they'll definitely start causing trouble for me." Oscar nodded in understanding and then asked, "So, have you seen any houses you like? I can keep an eye out for you." I just smiled and shook my head, saying nothing. After finalizing all the procedures with Oscar, I sincerely thanked him. Oscar, scratching his head sheepishly, said, "Scarlett, you might not remember, but buying this house was the first deal I closed after I started working. If it weren't for you, I might have lost my job. Also, I remember how you gave me a drink when it was hot. I've kept all these gestures in my heart. I think you're a genuinely good person." I was touched that such small acts of kindness were remembered by a friend, while my family always seemed to think my efforts were never enough. "By the way, Oscar, if these houses are sold to unreasonable people like mafia types, I'll give them a discount of 50,000. Oscar looked puzzled at first, but then understood my intention. "All right, sis, I got it." A week later, Oscar had sold both houses for $8 million, which had been deposited into my account. I booked a flight to Yunnan overnight, and by the time I opened my eyes, I had arrived in this beautiful city. It had been 10 years since I graduated, and I had been working hard every day without rest. Now, I could finally take a break. On my third day in Yunnan, I received a call from Tiany's class teacher. "Aunt Tiany, why hasn't Tiany been coming to class lately?" I called his father, and he said something about a zombie outbreak. "Do you know what's going on with Tiany?" I explained to Tiany's class teacher that I was on a business trip and wasn't sure about the home situation before hanging up. Catching up on the timeline, it was already past the date my nephew had mentioned for the zombie outbreak, so I expected a call from my family soon. A week later, just as I had bought a small courtyard in Yunnan to start a hostel, I received a call from my mom. "Scarlett, what's it like outside? Were there no zombies after all?" "Mom, the streets are full of zombies, and I'm almost out of food. Where are you guys? Can I come to you? But everything looks normal outside our community, and we still have water, electricity, and gas." "Really? I've lost all utilities here." "Mom, send me your address." After hearing this, my mom hurriedly hung up the phone. When I tried calling back, I found out that I had been blocked again. Only now did I fully realize how foolish and malicious my family truly was. As for the hostel, I started setting up a social media account to document the entire renovation process. Recently, home renovation videos have become very popular, which has also attracted many followers to my account. Many adorable fans have been offering suggestions, and some who study design even send me their renderings. They call my place their virtual guest house while discussing the next steps with the workers. My mother called me again. On the other end of the phone, she berated me furiously. "Scarlett, you little wretch. Did you set us up on purpose? There's no zombie outbreak. You're just lying. Now we're constantly harassed by debt collectors calling us. We don't even dare to step outside. You must pay back this money for us, or we are cutting ties with you." I held the phone away from my ear and waited for her to finish before I replied, "Well, if it's cutting ties, then so be it." I'll go change my name in a bit. Wasn't it your beloved grandson who talked about the zombie apocalypse? What does that have to do with me, Mrs. Gloria? You and Mr. Harold, you all better stay hidden in your safe house and not go out, or if you can't pay your debts, the debt collectors will chop off your limbs. After saying that, I hung up the phone and blocked her. Just after blocking my mom, my dad called. But I decided to just turn off my phone. In the afternoon, I went to the police station to change my name. Originally, during the pregnancy, they thought I was a boy and named me Theodore. When I turned out to be a girl, they named me Scarlet, feeling it was a pity they missed out on a boy. But why should having me be considered a pity? I renamed myself Hope, and from now on, I will be just an ordinary girl full of hope for the future. After changing my name, I switched my SIM card and WeChat account, cutting off ties with the past except with a few close friends. I haven't heard from my parents since changing my phone number. Later, Oscar told me that my parents and my brother's family of 5 have been hiding in a safe house, too scared to come out. Their son's school teacher had called several times, but eventually gave up trying to communicate. Debt collectors blocked their door daily, employing useless tactics like throwing red paint and feces. The door they bought was of good quality. Debt collectors couldn't break in despite several attempts. Some neighbors called the police, but they refused to open the door, and since there wasn't any concrete criminal activity, and the lending platforms themselves were somewhat illegal, the police were reluctant to intervene. Now, their family of 5 has become infamous locally, turned into a joke. Hearing this news from Oscar, I felt a sense of relief as if a weight had been lifted from my heart. Months later, my guest house finally opened. Many online friends came to stay on the opening day, and some friends from out of town even sent me flower baskets. It was a joyful day, and I started a live stream at the request of my followers. After operating the account for a while, I've gained many followers. During a live stream, the camera accidentally swept over my face. I didn't mind it at that moment, but it gave them another chance to cling to me. The opening day went smoothly, and for the first 3 days, I invited friends who had helped me with ideas to stay for free. After their experience, many of them voluntarily promoted my place on social media. Some of them were minor internet celebrities, and their promotions made our place extremely popular. Hard to book a room. As I was reveling in the success of launching the guest house, Oscar called me. He told me that after hiding in the safe house for half a year, my family couldn't stand it anymore. One morning, unable to bear the daily arguments and monotonous food, my nephew secretly opened the door. The debt collectors who had been watching the house for a long time finally got in. They vented their pent-up frustration on my parents and my brother and his wife, beating them up. It ended with them chopping off one of my brother's fingers, threatening them to pay back the money within a week or else face death. Oscar said they went to the house where my parents used to live, only to find that it had a new owner. At that time, my parents threw a tantrum, refusing to leave until a muscular man with a buzz cut and tattooed arms threw them out. Accustomed to bullying the weak and fearing the strong, they meekly left. Upon encountering the imposing man, they discovered where I lived and stood cursing at the doorstep. Upon finding out that my house had been sold, the buyer of my house was a notoriously difficult aunt who started hurling insults back at them when she saw them cursing outside her home, creating quite a scene. Eventually, unable to outfight or outshout them, they took their grievances to my workplace, only to discover that I had resigned over half a year ago, and they couldn't find my new address despite asking around. Just as they were at their wits' end, an old neighbor came across my bed and breakfast on TikTok. During one of my live streams, they spotted me. When they shared this news with my parents, my brother contacted me through TikTok. Wow, our family is being hunted down, and here you are becoming an internet celebrity and running a big business. Our family has suffered terribly because of you. Your nephew is still so young. How could you bear this? You need to pay me back now, or I'll make sure your business can't continue. If you don't transfer 20 million to my account today, prepare to be cyberbullied. Reading Caleb's messages nearly made me laugh out loud. How could he possibly think I had that much money? He deserved having to repay 20 million after borrowing 10 million online. I immediately blocked his account. That evening, I noticed a video mentioning me had gone viral, attracting numerous unknown netizens who came to insult me under my account. The ancients did not deceive me. Only women and villains are difficult to nurture. Using family borrowed loan money to start your business. Are you comfortable eating blood-steamed buns? Blogger, does your conscience not hurt? Can you sleep at night? Aren't you afraid of choking while drinking water? I watched the video my brother posted, where his family sat in front of the camera, accusing me. They claimed that to start the guest house, our parents and my brother and his wife had sold their houses to raise money for me. When the money was still not enough, I allegedly deceived them into taking a loan of 10 million, which I had promised to repay once the business made money, but had now blocked them. Without money or a place to live, and hiding from debt collectors daily, they had no choice but to contact me this way. The back end of my guest house was full of cancellations and disapproving comments, while my employees looked at me, troubled. Scarlet, we don't believe you're this kind of person, but those netizens don't know. Should we clarify things for you? I shook my head, indicating I would handle it, and assured them not to worry. I knew the best time to manage a crisis was within 24 hours. However, I chose not to resolve it in 24 hours because I wanted to amplify the public opinion enough. 2 days later, other than the fans who had been following from the start, everyone else had cancelled their bookings. The incident had blown up online, with many bloggers condemning me, capitalizing on the controversy. At that point, I released a video text: you seek kindness and humility, but resort to cheating and stealing. I aimed at the bright moon, but alas, the moon shines on the ditch. The video was long, detailing the incident thoroughly. Unlike their baseless accusations, my video included surveillance footage, recordings, chat screenshots, and the bank statements and contracts from my house transactions. It also showed the money I had spent on my parents over the years, and the money my brother and his wife had deceitfully taken from me under the guise of borrowing, totaling $2 million. The video went viral within half an hour, and apologies flooded in under my video. Seeing the end made me cry. Sister, you've had it so tough. How could there be such a parasitic family? If the sister didn't have this evidence, all her years of hard work would be in vain, misunderstood by everyone. What if there were really zombies or an apocalypse? Then their true colors wouldn't be like this. Sister, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have cancelled. Now I can't even book that room again. They tried to harm me with public opinion and moral coercion, but it ultimately backfired on them. Now they were infamous locally, previously hidden in a safe house. They were thought to be unwell, but now everyone knew they were both foolish and malicious. Initially, they wanted to return to the safe house, but the landlord had changed the locks. They threw a tantrum and refused to leave, angering the landlord, who eventually called the police to remove them. They ended up like homeless people, sleeping under bridges, until one day, my brother discovered our parents sneaking out to eat every day and remembered they still received a pension. Yet our parents, who had always favored him, refused to even buy him a bowl of noodles with their pension, which was the last straw for him. During a struggle over the pension bank cards, he pushed our parents into the street, where they died on the spot. Seeing all this, his wife, terrified, grabbed their son and tried to flee. Ultimately, she too was brutally killed by my deranged brother. Yes, Caleb had gone mad. Perhaps it was the day when, cornered by debt collectors, he was brutally injured. Perhaps it was witnessing his sister-in-law endure repeated harassment from creditors while his brother cowardly turned a blind eye. Perhaps it was those moments when acquaintances, passing by, disdainfully tossed him a few coins. At that moment, he unleashed all the humiliation inflicted by outsiders onto his family. When the police arrived, he stood there foolishly, holding a knife, neither hiding nor running away.